Hiya! Welcome to LSB Feasters radio channel, where we keep great radio from the past alive. And today, we're going to New York City and News Radio 88 WCBS. WCBS was a staple for New York City for decades, delivering breaking news and information to its listeners. WCBS was known for its in-depth coverage of local, national, and international events. The station has played a vital role in keeping New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut informed. WCBS had a team of experienced journalists and reporters like Charles Osgood, Lou Adler, Jim Donnelly, Pat Parson, Ben Farnsworth, Don Swaim, Jeff Caplan, Wayne Cabot, and so many other names have kept New Yorkers informed. The station's commitment to providing reliable and accurate news has made it a trusted source for countless New Yorkers, from the station's launch in 1967 till it came to an end in 2024. In August 2024, the company that owned WCBS, Odyssey, decided the station would no longer continue with its all-news format. Odyssey would keep 880 in its stable of stations, while Good Karma Broadcasting would program the station and flip it to ESPN New York. WCBS 880 decided to broadcast a live commemorative special, WCBS 880 News, the people, the memories, and the events that shaped our lives. They ran it on August 22nd, just days before the news service came to an end on WCBS. The special brought back a lot of memories and reminders about how much WCBS played a part in the lives of New Yorkers. So let's give it a listen. WCBS 880 News, the people, the moments, and the events that shaped our lives on News Radio 880 WCBS New York.
WCBS 880 News, the people.
Monday in the morning at News Radio 88 WCBS.
Dave Flanders and WCBS News Radio 88 Mobile Unit number 1.
The moments.
Reggie Jackson has hit his third home run of the game.
An unidentified man who is apparently walking on a tightrope between the towers of the World Trade Center.
The events that shaped our lives.
All I can tell you is there were severe electrical storms to the north, just prior to the blackout here.
Strike Schmike, enough already.
The anxiety is setting in about how I'm going to get home, and I haven't gotten to work yet.
Here's Wayne Cabot, Paul Murnane, and Bridget Quinn.
I'm kind of speechless, Paul, to tell you the truth.
I know, we're verklempt.
After hearing that great intro just there, produced by David Plotkin, wow, that was fantastic. The voices from over the years. And yeah, I know that we're wrapping things up here, but this is not a funeral. This is a celebration of what has been the best radio station ever to exist. Now, that's hyperbole. As a certain person running for office says, that's not hyperbole. This is the best station there ever was.
And for the next 3 hours, we're going to be hearing from people. We're going to be bringing them, their memories to the radio. Maybe we should go in chronological order, in the order that we started here. And that, I guess, would be beginning with Bridget Quinn. Good morning, Bridget.
Good morning, guys. This is so fun being in this seat over here on the other side. I don't have to push buttons today.
Bridget, the people who originally started here didn't have to push buttons. They had engineers.
They smoked cigarettes in the studio, too.
And there might have been a bottle or two around the studio as well.
Probably. By the way, before we go, we better make sure there aren't any knocking around in a drawer somewhere. When did you start, Bridget?
I started in 88.
Well, you both started in 88.
In 88. Well, Wayne and I both were freelancers at 1010. I got hired here by Bernie Gershon. And he said, I can't really give you much more than a Saturday overnight shift. I said, I'll take it. That's fine. And then what, a few months later, Wayne?
Yeah. Yeah, Ben,
you followed me. You stalked me here. No,
I most certainly did. And let me know where I'm following you next, Bridget, because you led me to a great place, and it's been 36 years for me here. And I know you've been here for just about as long off and on. You had this glamorous career in television and made quite a mark for yourself because you got the looks, and we're just a couple of radio shows.
No, stop it.
But working with you has been, not just working with you, but being your friend. And that's the thing. We really are all friends. And if we weren't, I think we probably wouldn't have been a very successful radio station, because you need that to work as a team and get this thing sounding the way it does?
Well, listen, I came here 29 years ago, so I'm the newbie, but I started as a reporter, so it's like I came to work here because it's been like 36 years.
Do you remember being young, being here? Like, I remember being just terrified.
Oh, they reminded us of how young we were.
Oh, yeah, they did. But all these anchors, all this experiences, who am I to be anchoring here? You know, it was really daunting, intimidating.
Weren't they nice, though, to let us look over their shoulder? Maybe, they didn't even know we were. But we watched them work, and we saw the one thing that mattered, that they were comfortable in their own skin, and they were absolutely genuine. And that's the beauty, I think, about this place. We've never been told to put on some act or do it this way exactly, and be some kind of, crazy radio personality that you would find on other stations.
Do you remember Tom Franklin, the late, great Tom Franklin?
Of course.
The first time I co-anchored with anybody here was with him in the afternoon, and I said, gee, Tom, I've never done the co-anchor thing. Does the script say, Tom speaks here, Bridget here? He's like, no. Don't worry. I'll speak, and then you'll speak. And that's exactly right. And that's all there is to it.
That's the best advice.
No, it's perfect advice because you speak, then I speak. You go into the commercial, I come out of the commercial, and there's no confusion that way.
By the way, the reporter advice that I got from Rich Lamb was just tell people what you see, which was the reporter, I guess, the version of that advice.
All right, we got somebody on the line right now I want to get to, but before I introduce him, I want to give you a little tease as to who we're about to talk to here.
The New York City newspaper publishers readying a proposal for the Pressmen's Union. The machinists vote to strike. We'll get details from Steve Reed. Mets lose in the ninth to San Diego, 2-1. The rest of the sports with Barry Landers. You New York bets will have your triple from Saratoga. A report on the day in business from Ray Brady. Bob Harris with more on the hot weather. Mary Gay Taylor with a story on how some New Yorkers are trying to beat the heat. The balloonists have made it to Ireland. They crossed the Atlantic. He's Pat Parson. I'm Ben Farnsworth. 6 o'clock.
Wait for it.
Is the world tonight. Good evening. I'm Douglas Edwards.
All right. Okay. Can I just have a cigarette now?
Well, we had three legends there: Pat Parson, Ben Farnsworth, and Douglas Edwards.
God.
Hey, Ben Farnsworth on the line from Florida, where I understand you're head of the Condo Association, and you're shooting reliably under 80 on the golf course.
No, neither is true. I'm still on the board of directors, but I'm not the president, and I play bad golf. I'm about a 20 handicap, so
Oh, good. Then I'll be right down.
No problem. Hey, come down. We'll have some fun. It's great to hear Douglas Edwards again too. He was a big listener. He was a big fan. He used to call me from time to time. He was a great guy, and it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear Pat too. I think of him often and listen to Paul I just spoke with, and of course you. We talk from time to time. I'm glad you're doing well. You remember the first time we met, right?
Oh, do I ever? I took the bus in from New Jersey. I was 14 years old.
You just showed up at the station, right?
I just showed up.
Yeah.
Back before security.
Yeah. And one of the PAs walks in and said, "Hey, there's some kid here who wants to come in and sit in the studio." And I look at Pat and I said, "Do you know that guy?" I have no idea. We looked through the window in the back. I said, "All right, I'll go out and talk to him." So I go out and I talked to him. And I said, I said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm Wayne Cabot. I just want to come on. Can I come in and sit? Please, can I come?" And I said, "Sure." So I walked back in. I said, "Pat, I think the kid's okay. I don't think he's a serial killer or anything. Let's let him in." And so he came in, and you sat in the back of the studio. I don't know how many times you came on a regular basis.
Oh, I sure did.
I don't think you learned anything, but I mean, still.
Well, I didn't wait to be invited, but I learned a ton. Ben, I got to point out, and I know you're going to laugh when you hear this. You and Pat were such a team. And on occasion, people will compare Paul and me to you and Pat, and that is, I don't think it's true, but it's the ultimate flattery. And you and Pat inspired some listener. I don't know who put this together. Somebody put together a Pat and Ben spoof that is classic. And we're going to play it for you right now. You remember what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I know the tape. It's great.
All right.
That's great.
Here we go.
Bing, 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 bing. WCBS News Time, 5:15. I'm Pat Parson.
I'm Ben Farnsworth. We're going to be keeping you up to date on what's happening right now up to the chopper and Lou Timela.
Ben, the traffic situation on the lower Trigger is becoming hectic now. We're going to got some problems up here. I've been halted from passing ducks. I'm going to have to set down in the East River, guys. Hold on, mate.
Okay, Chopper, 5:15 our time on News 88.
And we'll be checking in with Dr. Bob Harris at the Weather Center in a moment.
Hello, I'm Sensational Sydney of Sydney's Carpet Reclaimers in East Haddock, Long Island. All my famous Australian goat coats are now 50% off. Imported sports suits and snow sneakers now drastically reduced. Just follow the signs to the Big Iron Gate and ask for Lucky Lem.
WCBS News Time, 5:58. Over to Bob Harris.
Okay, Pat. Okay, Ben. The weather picture, occasional Mr. Drizzle tonight, patchy fog.
You have any little grout clusters I can chew on, Bob?
Later, Ben. You won't want to eat in a minute. Temperatures tonight in the mid to upper colder areas around 20, with the normally colder interior sections normally colder.
Okay, thank you, Bob. WCBS News Time, 5:58. I'm Pat Parson.
I'm Ben Farnsworth.
A big bang in New Jersey last night. 21 people killed in 21-gun salute. And another son of Don killing in Queens.
I heard that big boom in Jersey last night, Pat. I thought it was you.
I haven't had pizza for a week.
Coming up on WCBS in the next half hour, Mary Gay Taylor covers that gay bathhouse fire.
Art Athens in Athens.
Steve Flanders in Flanders.
And Roger Karras on the 10 best ways to asphyxiate your cat. Gonna be going down to Sally's after the show tonight, Ben?
I don't know, Pat. I was thinking about going over to my sister-in-law's tonight. She's cooking lasagna.
Yeah, I sure hope they get Lou out of the river.
By the way, on snow days, Ben, I tell Wayne, don't forget to wear your Australian snow sneakers.
Oh, classic stuff. What did you think when you heard that? Did you realize the impact you had on somebody created that brilliance for you guys?
I know. The guy was brilliant, and I remember when I first heard it, I fell down laughing. I mean, he had all the dialects and everything, and he kind of had our stick, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he could have worked here, actually.
Yeah, no kidding. And still today, probably.
What's the legacy of the radio station, if I may ask you a very large question that's impossible to answer?
The legacy of the radio station is that it changed the course of news, I believe, in many, many ways. It brought serious news stories with just a hint of fresh air, for lack of a better word. It changed the way people thought about news, I think. I think it was very instrumental in doing that. And back in the day, we kind of had to do that. I always had the feeling. I worked with a guy by the name of Norm Nathan at WEI in Boston years ago, and he was one of the wittiest guys, bright as they could be. And he talked to people on the radio, and that's kind of where I learned it. I wanted to talk to people. And when I came to WCBS, it was, and I'm not demeaning any of the people who were there. It's just the way it was done. I'm Ben Farnsworth, and you're listening to WCBS. In the headlines, you had kind of that kind of impression. And when I was hired, I said, I'm going to be very, very different, and you're not going to like it. And they said, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And when I came on, it got a lot of, there was some considerable resistance from anchors inside the station. They were all good guys. It was just really new. And I worried about it the first month that I was there, that kind of, just talking about it and taking the edge off the news was going to be a little difficult. And then about a month in, I've told you this story, but we're on the air, and they're doing a story about a bathtub race, and the winner got like $500, and Pat says to me, I wonder what the loser got. I said, it's simple. They sent him to the showers. And boom, we went on, and about literally 5 minutes later, I look out the big window, which used to be to the side of us there, and Sam Cooke Diggs is standing there. Sam Cooke Diggs ran the entire radio operation, and he's looking through at me, and I go, oh my God, what did I say? What did I do? He looked a little like Cesar Romero, the old actor, and when he talked, he would say, Well, we're with WCBS is one of the most substantial news. He had a very deliberate thing, so I go, and he waves to me, gives me a wave, and I come outside, and I stand there. And he said, Ben, I just heard what you said about the bathtub. I wanted to tell you I almost fell off my chair.
And you knew you were in.
I knew I was in. He
That's
turned around,
beautiful.
and upstairs he went. And so
that's when it was invented. At that moment, yeah, you set the standard, and so many of us have tried to be as good as Pat and Ben.
Well, we had our times, we had our differences. Everybody that's it's kind of known that we had our problems.
Oh, we hadn't heard.
Yeah. But listen, you put two big egos in a room about as big as your bedroom for 4 hours, and it's probably not going to be pretty. So,
Ben, you inspired me and Paul and a generation of people, and you inspired listeners who weren't even involved on the radio, just loved the camaraderie and the intelligence and warmth and wit that you guys brought for so many years. And then you came back, and we got to work with you in more recent years, and that was just such a treat. Ben Farnsworth, the legend on WCBS, and I'm going to leave you, Ben. I'm going to say goodbye to you and play a little clip you probably forgot all about. You did a feature piece on something that was new at the time. It was a watch that you would listen to. It made an audio... It made noises. So instead of looking at it, it made beeps. And here's how that went.
1, 10, 20, 1. 1 and 20 and 1, or 121. You have to know whether it's morning or afternoon. So, when you're with a special friend and the lights are down low and you're just about to... That's right, you listen to your watch and you say, whoops, 1:21 in the morning, honey. Sorry, I have to run. And then, of course, your friend turns to you and says, why, you can take your... and you no good... I'm Ben Farnsworth. Once again, time runs out for Ben. Chopper.
Hey, we're right up here over something that smells awful. It must be an incinerator.
Hey, there's a sound. It must mean it's traffic time. And here's Tom Kaminsky.
It must mean that. Let's go back on over to the as Neil Bush used to call it, the doggone Deegan. We'll go back on over to the Major Deegan Expressway in the WCBS traffic zone.
We decided to prop open the door because there are so many people now gathering in the newsroom coming here to say goodbye. We want to make it sound like a party, and I think it does, right?
It absolutely does, and it should be a party because we're celebrating a legend in radio, and we're celebrating all the people who have supported us and listened and made this a two-way, a symbiotic relationship. Air personalities to listeners to advertisers. It has been a brilliant connection for so many years, and we are just buzzing off it right now. And you can hear the buzz in the newsroom. Maybe they just came for the free food. I don't know, but we're happy to have them.
You get a bunch of radio people in the newsroom, you're going to hear some conversation, and it's probably they'll be talking. We'll be off the air, and they'll still be 3 hours after that still talking.
Sunny today, mixing with some clouds as I indelicately pivot to the weather. 75 for the high this afternoon.
Will people come to the station for the weather? Clear tonight, 60 to 65, 50s in the burbs.
Sunshine tomorrow, warmer, 75 to 80, and 2 nice weekend days and the highs into the 80s.
Last check, we had 63 in the city, 63 in Manhattan at WCBS 880, Bridget.
Is it time to bring in my favorite person?
Oh, who's your favorite? I thought that was me.
Well, it's a tie.
Nicely done.
We're not doing commercials, are we?
Oh, no.
No,
I
okay.
know we're supposed to.
Can I introduce him?
Sure. What are they going to do? Let us go if we don't play the commercials?
From way out west, Jeff Caplan. Oh, my goodness. Other than anchoring with Wayne, my happiest times on air were with you, my friend.
It is good to talk to you in the circumstances. I'm not sure if it's great. I mean, 2,000 miles away, my heart is really heavy over all of this. It really is. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to talk with you guys and be on WCBS one last time. Wayne has been one of my best friends for 40 years. Bridget, I think we go back about 30 years. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you guys, I moved to Salt Lake City. I'm on the air every afternoon on KSL News Radio here. I love my job, but I want to tell you how much mileage I've gotten out of the two of you. Wayne, I talk about how we're best friends and how gratifying it was that you got the chair in the mornings after I left. Bridget, I bragged about your TV career and coming back to radio to the point where everybody's a little sick of hearing it. And it's also being at WCBS for all those years. I think I sat in the chair after Jim Donnelly for like 14, 15 years. I could say things in my newsroom here like, oh yeah, I've met Hillary, and like, Trump, sure, had him on, absolutely. And that's the kind of station WCBS has been. I can move 2,000 miles away and name drop about you guys for the rest of my life.
I mean, you think about that famous blooper when Rich Adcock, the blind desk assistant, picked up the phone, and the way he would answer the phone is by pushing every button until he found the person, and he interrupted a guy who was on the air being interviewed, and that guy was Henry Kissinger. Hey,
wonderful memories.
Hey, I want to say hi to one of my favorite people, and who's near and dear to you, and that's your mother, Elaine. I love Elaine. She's a faithful listener. I'll say something, and it'll somehow get back to you in Utah.
Yeah, and she listens to you every morning, and, on the internet, she listens to me every afternoon. We have a camera in the studio, and she actually watches me, and she says, you look tired, and I'll get the whole mom thing. And she is really going to miss you guys, so much so that for her to get her news, I'm actually coming out. My boss here, Kevin LaRue, has given me permission to go to New Jersey, be at her house, and do my show in Utah from her house in New Jersey so that she still gets her news.
We're coming over. We're coming over, Jeff.
Absolutely, waiting for you.
I remember coming here as a reporter in 1994 and hearing the two, Bridget and Jeff, in the morning and thinking, wow, they really have it together. But having done this for a couple of years now, I can tell you it's not easy. I don't know how you two did it. It really sounded great.
I'll tell you how we did it. It was Jeff being as funny as he is. The off-air show was the best, and it was enough to keep me awake every day. By the way, your mom, Jeff, I remember when I told her that I was taking a little break from radio, she gave me this look and said, oh, well, that's really too bad. And I thought about that, and then you and Wayne persuaded me to come on back, but I'll never forget the look on her face.
That's great.
Yeah, well, we love her.
I remember the off-air show, we used to call it, all the goofing in the studio. Let it be known that 9:30 every Friday morning, while we were still on the air, we were doing the news and watching Beavis and Butthead on MTV.
That explains a lot.
Oh,
hey, Jeff, my buddy, I love you like a brother. I feel like you are a brother. I feel like Elaine's my mother. We all have that relationship here. Paul, love him like a brother. Bridget, like a sister. And on it goes. And it's legitimate. It's authentic. And I think maybe that's the secret sauce here.
So many memories, including you driving me out of WCBS, Wayne. It's time we talk about it.
I remember.
Okay. Can I?
Go ahead.
Can I do this? All right. It was 2006. I was burnt out after 9/11. It's just like, what's the point after seeing what happened to New York? And I, dragged my way through the day, and I was saying it's time to go. I had other things going on in my life that were really great. And I was thinking about maybe it's time to retire from WCBS. And it was like stewing in my mind. And here's Wayne Cabot, my best friend, doing the afternoon show at the time on WCBS. And he apparently complained to our boss, Chris Quimby, that there were oranges in the trash can, orange peels in the studio, and they were smelling. Must be from Jeff. So she sends me this formal memo about what you're allowed to do in the studio, and it does include eating, and you are precluded from eating oranges during the World News Roundup. If you must do so, please leave the studio. And I had a total meltdown. I'm like, that's it. This place is a nut house. I gotta get out of here. And at the end of my show, I walked in and I said, Chris, it's time to retire. And that was the end of my service. So Wayne, you got yourself the chair. Congratulations. I got to eat my oranges.
Hey, you got in trouble for oranges. Do you know what some of my your predecessors had to eat in the studio?
Are you going to talk about corned beef hash?
I'm going to talk about Spam. I'm going to talk about cans of tuna being cracked open at 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Oranges, please.
You're mentioning Jim Donnelly's menu. Jim Donnelly, even when he passed wind, it sounded resonant and wonderful.
10:26, and we're off the rails.
As long as we're off the rails and we're talking about these scatological things, listen to Bill Fein making a rare mistake on the radio.
South African activist Winnie Mandela was honored for her courage in fighting apartheid in a star-studded ceremony at Radio City Music Hall.
I had to bring that in.
Only you would have saved that for 40 years.
I want to let you know. I know Bill's daughter is listening right now. She probably hates me for playing that. That is so rare. Bill Fein was the Rock, universally loved and revered. And I want to tell you quickly the story of Bill Fein's daughter, Robin, who reached out to me yesterday and said that she heard the news about the demise of WCBS, her father's radio station, where he was the Rock for so many years. And she told her mother that the station was going off, and her mother was very sad, and she passed away the next day. Joyce Fein died the next day, and she, according to Robin, she heard her mother calling out to Bill, and she believes that Bill was calling down to her because he missed her fried chicken. Yeah. If you ever had Joyce Fein's fried chicken, you would understand. It was famous. And so was Bill Fein. He went over to Ben Benson's, I understand, and never had to pay.
Didn't you go over to Ben Benson's and bring him something back in the studio?
On the day he almost retired because the CBS accountant screwed it up. Remember they had the retirement party for him and then told him you got to work 6 more months?
Monday, he's like, what are you doing here?
On the day Bill Fein was doing what he thought was his last shift, I went over to Ben Benson's and told the bartender who knew Bill very well, that is Bill's last day, and can you make him his favorite, which is a Manhattan? And the bartender at Ben Benson said, I'm not supposed to let you leave with a drink. It's against the law, but shh, here you go. And he mixed an old-fashioned, put a cloth napkin over it, and out the door I went, and I handed it to Bill as he was on the air, and his eyes lit up wide like saucers, and he said, thank you. And then he began drinking it, and I drove home listening to Bill. He never sounded better.
Yeah. I think you probably left with 2, and 1 cup was empty when you got back to Black Rock.
Quiet, you. Traffic and weather together on WCBS. Tom Kaminsky.
Still doing that. Still some trouble on the southbound side of the BQEs.
John Stone in the Weather Center at WCBS. Chief Meteorologist Craig Allen, I understand, is either on his way or out there right now in the newsroom. I can't really see. There's about 1 million people out there.
And we're leaving the door open. You can hear the party that's out there.
Paul, same as it ever was. Nobody in the newsroom is listening to us.
Exactly.
They have no idea what's going on.
We're on the air in here. Hello.
We now return to WCBS 880 News. The people, the moments, the events that shaped our lives.
Well, let's see. We have 57 years to cover in just another couple of hours. And it's kind of like, imagine moving out of your house after 57 years, having all these boxes you got to move out and then sort through them for the gems, and it's impossible to pluck out all the ones that you have in just a couple of days, and that's sort of where we are. So please forgive us. Anybody who's been here, who's worked here, who we are not recognizing, it's just an impossible task. You know that we love you and we remember you. It's just overwhelming. That plus the response we've gotten from that we continue to get. Well, the phone is ringing, Paul. The phones don't ring anywhere anymore, and they're ringing like crazy out there.
It's heartening to read what people are saying about us, and we could have known a year ago that WCBS was going away, and if we started reading the names and saying thank you, then we wouldn't have had enough time.
We've got a list of guests here. We want to see if we can get to them before this whole thing is done, because you and I have a habit. We're famous in the newsroom for just blathering on forever.
They write the whole show, and then we get one story on because of our incessant you-know-what.
Tom, are you still on the line there? Tom Kaminsky?
I am still on the line, yes.
All right. I know you wanted to talk about... Actually, to be honest, I have no idea what you wanted to talk about. I was going to try to make something up, but I have no idea, because we've covered so much ground already.
Well, I want to start by saying that I was a diehard diehard WCBS listener growing up. If I would happen to get up early, my father woke up very early in the morning to go to his job, to his work, and I would hear Gary Maurer on the air, playing in the kitchen as he would have a cup of coffee and go to work. So I started out actually right out of my graduation at Montclair State in 1984. I started as a driver for Shadow Traffic. I worked for the Shadow Traffic Network. So. And I talked a little bit about this morning. As a driver, it was you would have a bag of maps, a two-way radio, a different route to drive every day. Did that for a couple of years, and in that time, I gained an immense knowledge of the area roadways. And when I was able to get the afternoon helicopter job in 1988, that came in very handy because it gave me just enough knowledge to start to do that job. I knew what I was looking at. I was just looking at it from a different angle. But while I was a driver for Shadow Traffic, one of my additional jobs was to deliver commercial copy to the radio stations that Shadow Traffic served. So commercial copy, now it's all digital. It comes to you, it's emailed. It was not delivered electronically. It was put on small reel-to-reel tapes and put into an envelope with the script and delivered to the stations by hand. So again, I'm an avid WCBS listener. So when you delivered copy, you would go to the mailroom. And I thought to myself, one time I wanted to go in through the front door of Black Rock just to see how far I'd get. Maybe I could get to the 16th floor because I knew that's where the station was. Maybe I could actually go in there. So I go down the steps into the front doors in Black Rock just to see how far I'm going to get. I got about 3 steps into the building, and the man behind the reception desk looks at me and growls, "The mailroom is around the back." So that was about it. So on my very first day at WCBS, I walked down the steps of Black Rock, and I looked at the letters. I took a long look up, and I thought, I've made it. And that was the September 26th, 1988. I walked into the 16th floor. The first sound that I heard was Ed Ingles' typewriter creating the sportscast for that morning. And I also heard Rich Adcock's police scanner. And before I even turned the corner into the newsroom, I knew that I was home.
You mentioned Rich Adcock, who worked here at WCBS, I don't know how many years, 20, 30 years, and he would sit at the desk. He was blind. He managed to come to New York City on the subway.
It was an amazing, and he knew every route to the subway. They had an absolute encyclopedic knowledge of the New York City subways.
And with all that noise in the newsroom, he could listen to the police scanner and pick out a call from some particular corner of the city and tell you what was going on. He was really a remarkable man.
Yeah, he would pass that along to me. We would pass that along to Neil. But,
we finally paid our United Press International bill, and they turned the teletype back on.
Yeah, I wondered why the teletype had stopped there for a bit. But to walk into the newsroom, the first people that I met were Dick Spencer, our producer that morning, and Jim Donnelly and Bridget Quinn. They were the first people that I met, and I mean, this is a station I was a diehard listener of, and to this day, the names, Bridget Quinn and Jim Donnelly, Tom Franklin's been mentioned, Pat Parson, Ben Farnsworth, Rita Sands, Art Athens, Irene Cornell, Rich Lamb, Jane Tillman Irvin.
You're going to leave people out. You're going to leave people out, That's the danger here.
I'm absolutely going to leave people out, but for my name to even be in this conversation is absolutely an astonishing. It's a very humbling thing for me.
Wait, who is this again? This is Tom, right?
The humble Tom Kaminsky.
Tom, you mentioned Rita Sands. Before I came here, I just aspired to be maybe half as good as Rita one day. She was, oh my goodness, she was wonderful in the afternoon. What a smooth sound. She was really something. She was my hero, my icon.
Yeah. Well, listen, you were every bit as smooth and wonderful as Rita Sands, who was just impeccable. But before Rita Sands became as smooth as she did, I've got a clip of her here.
This is really, you're going to play this?
Of course I'm going to play this, Paul.
Wow.
Every time someone says you shouldn't play this, that means, oh, yes, I should.
This is our new attitude.
This is Rita Sands, what she just started. She really developed into a much smoother, silkier voice, but even then you could tell how good she was.
I thought this only, by the way, existed as some kind of fable.
You heard the story.
I'd heard the story, and then you played the audio, and I said, I always thought that was just some story.
This is Rita Sands and Gary Moore, middays on WCBS, trying to get through a live commercial read for some guy who sold wigs on the radio. And the word bald can be taken two ways, as you will hear.
With Regent Street Miracle Hair Replacement, you'll never be bald again. Call LI4-5700.
Dance in it, shower in it, swim in it. Really, it can't come off until removed by you. Call LI4-5700.
Regent Street Miracle Hair Replacement makes old men look younger.
Does that make you laugh?
With more confidence. Call LI4-5700.
For an absolutely free brochure, call LI4-5700. Regent Street Hair Replacement. It just won't come off.
For free information and a free brochure, call LI4-5700. It's 12:46 WCBS News Time. Our temperature 60 degrees. I'm Rita Sands.
She said she's Rita Sands. I'm Gary Moore.
A check on the morning headlines. New York City. Leaders of the city's firemen's union this morning turned in a box of...
Gary Moore told me when that live copy, they used to turn the chairs so they wouldn't be looking at each other when they were reading that.
So they wouldn't laugh. Oh my goodness!
Isn't that great? Listen,
she still sounded great, even laughing.
Hold on for a second. I'm trying to write down that phone number for the. Boy, Tom Kaminsky.
Oh, I gotta work now. No, gee, now
you're still being
work.
paid. Come on.
Yeah, it's true. I am until tomorrow. Anyway, one more shift and one more flight until tomorrow. Midday road work on the LIE westbound side.
And it's going to be a clear night tonight with just about a full moon as it begins to... I always forget, wax or wane, which is which?
Your name is Wayne.
Oh, thank you. It's good. Then I'll be waxing tonight, poetic. 60 to 65 for the low. It'll be in the 50s in the suburbs.
And then tomorrow, sunny, a couple of clouds near 80, and 67 in Manhattan at the moment.
It's 10:40 at WCBS, and we're not supposed to give time checks. I just remembered now because this thing's going to be rebroadcast throughout the weekend, which is, I'm glad I'm pointing this out.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm pointing out my mistake because I don't know yet. People have been asking me, hey, when am I going to be able to hear this? Because I have a doctor's appointment or I'm going to be on an airplane.
Right.
I know they're going to repeat this throughout the weekend.
They're
once
working
we get
on
a schedule. And so can they post it to the it's going to be on the app, the website?
Well, let's ask the newsroom. They seem to be paying attention to everything we're doing as usual in here.
So many familiar faces out there, and not one of them is interested in us, Paul.
They're all talking. That's nice. They haven't seen each other in years. Come on.
Hey, Jane Tillman Irving, are you ready to come on the air with us?
Jane Tillman Irving. Hello.
It's everybody remembers Jane Tillman Irving. And Jane, should I embarrass you first or second? What do you want to do? You want to talk first or should I embarrass you first?
Oh, go right ahead.
All right. Well, that assumes that I'm ready.
Are you going to play that infamous
I've got it.
tape? Oh, he is.
Here we go.
You just heard the words Jane Tillman Irving and infamous in the same sentence.
Here is Jane on the air with Jim Donnelly and Robert Vaughn talking about the Rockefeller Center tree. Is that the one? That's the one I'm talking about.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
I don't remember this one.
Oh, you'll love this.
The county is getting an inside track on the Christmas tree for Rockefeller Center. I understand that this is the third one from Rockland County in the last 5 years. How about that?
That's very exciting. Obviously, they grow them big there.
20 minutes after 8 o'clock at WCBS.
I was just going to say, Jane has covered a number of these tree erections down at Rockefeller Center. Does this look pretty much like all the rest of them?
That's a gem.
What were they doing to you, Jane?
I probably never even realized it. I'm slow on puns, which is why I should never work with you. One time I was working with Ralph Howard. I was co-anchoring with him during a brief stint of co-anchoring, and he said there was something about cows and money. And he said, that's an awful lot of moolah. And about 20 seconds later, we were into the commercial, and I got it. So I'm slow, but I'm cute.
Well, I had joked earlier there was a puns museum. We'd have a whole wing.
Absolutely. I spent 35 years here as a CBS employee, 3 of them at Channel 2, but most of them here, 32 years in 2 different stints. I walked in as a 24-year-old reporter, and I'm a little older than that now, and Lou Adler hired me and his assistant, Mike Ludlam, a name we haven't mentioned, who was a wonderful administrator here, manager. And I was making a list, because I have that kind of brain, of all the people that and their jobs that were employed at WCBS Radio the day I walked in the door, and I'm up to 74 names.
Wow.
70. That counts Gus, the maintenance man, and all the salespeople I remembered. And we had 5 technicians who were named Joe. So if you walked into a room with a technician and called him Joe, you were likely to get the right name. And we had technicians. We had a lot of writers. We had voices of God like Jim Donnelly and Bob Vaughn and Lou Adler and all of them. And it has been and then I came back after a number of years. I was away for 10 years. And then I came back as a writer and sometime reporter for another 18 years. I retired finally in 2017. And this place has been part of my life. I have been listening to it since I was in college, when I was a college senior. And Ed Bradley, who was a street reporter here, the legendary Ed Bradley, was on the same story. It was a major fire at my alma mater, City College of New York, and he told me about another job which led to my first radio job at WWRL, but I always wanted to be here. And within a very few years I was so happy.
You know, Jane,
I was tired, but I was happy.
We were talking about the classy, sophisticated, the important sound of WCBS, which is what caught our ears as kids. And I'm listening to your voice, and I hear that, and you were a part of that.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. The WCBS sound was remarkable, and we were coming out of the network with people like Douglas Edwards, whom I met. And we knew that Mr. Paley was upstairs listening, and that was something that we paid attention to as well. And if I can tell you one more story about how important being correct was. Lou Adler was our news director, and I was working the morning shift, and there were people from El Salvador involved in this story. And somewhere along the line, I was calling them Salvadorian, because that's what I thought they were. And somewhere in the afternoon, Marty Duskin, I was half asleep because I had to be here at 6 a.m. the next day. Marty Duskin, the afternoon reporter, called me and said, "Jane," which is how Marty sounded, "Jane, Lou Adler was listening. And he said, people from El Salvador are Salvadorans, not Salvadorians. Please redo all of the 4 or 5 pieces you have filed." So I did.
And you know what, Jane? I'll bet if you were the boss, you would have made your employee do the same thing, wouldn't you?
Oh, I was the resident grammarian here at WCBS. Yes, I was.
By the way,
yes,
the reason he corrected you is we were getting phone calls from El Salvador. That's how our signal reaches.
And we love getting your notes and your tips, and sometimes when we say something, there'll be a little ding and there'll be a text, and I'll see JTI, and I'm like, oh, a little correction being made over the phone.
We've got Rich Lamb standing by.
Rich Lamb.
Yeah, someone just gasped, and I don't know why. I think maybe Rich owes that person money, but we're gonna get to Rich in just a second. We got a little traffic and weather to get to, and I'm gonna set it up this way by playing something that Rich Lamb wishes I didn't have a copy of. And then we'll get to Rich. This is Rich covering the marathon, the New York City Marathon, way back when, probably right there on 5th Avenue somewhere.
Somewhere in the crowd was in there is WCBS reporter Rich Lamb. Rich, what's it like? Are they throwing it to me? Tap me when they do. My radio just crapped out.
Okay, you've been tapped, Rich Lamb, I hope. So let's see if we can get it.
Live radio.
Oh, I love live radio.
That's great.
It's almost as good as a live marathon. Rich Lamb, Do you know, is someone tapping you?
Somebody cue Lamb on First Avenue.
Oh, well.
Are you going to miss the terror of having things like that happen to you when you're on the air?
Yeah, I actually will. That's the most fun, is when everything goes wrong. When everything goes right, it's kind of boring.
It's given some of us ulcers.
Okay, those are the voices of Art Athens. I heard Bill Schweitzer in there, and correct myself because Jane's watching. That was First Avenue, not Fifth Avenue, and we'll get to Rich next.
But right now, the traffic story, and here's Tom Kaminsky.
It's 70 in Howell and 75 in, let's see here, where I lost my temperature.
Just make it up. That's what we did all these years.
It's 75 somewhere, right?
John Stone in the Weather Center this morning.
That was Let's Find Out's opening theme for many years.
Suddenly I feel I'm driving through upstate New York at 7:30 on a Saturday night. Is that when it ran, or 9 o'clock on a Saturday night?
Different times. Lou Adler started it out. Somewhere we have an air check of Lou Adler with Malcolm X from 1963.
We have to bring that out. That came, by the way, from someone who listens to us, right?
Yeah.
And who just came forward and said, oh, by the way, I have this recording. Someone sent flowers to the newsroom.
Isn't that fantastic?
And we're just overwhelmed by the outpouring.
And Rich Lamb was the voice of Let's Find Out for many, many years, and he's on right now from a cruise ship or something. Boy, it must be nice to be retired, Rich.
We are in Triselli, Umbria, in the midsection of Italy. Peggy and I are here staying with Phil Polella and his wife Mari. Phil is just retired as the Vatican correspondent for Reuters, and he has a beautiful house here in this green heart of Italy.
Rich had to mention those names to get comped on the trip. You know that, don't
Hey, Rich, does this mean you're not going to make your 11 a.m. assignment in Bushwick?
Yeah, that could be true. But we also have to mention Enrico and Viacia. They're loaning us their Wi-Fi, so that's why I can get on with you guys. and their dog, by the way, Hika, who can sniff for truffles. So this is a very different atmosphere here from New York City, obviously, but it's just fantastic. And you heard, when you did Let's Find Out, it just reminded me that one time I had a chance to have Walter Cronkite on that show, and I sat there, just couldn't believe my good fortune. I'm looking across at Uncle Walter and doing basically a half hour with Walter Cronkite. It's crazy when you think about it.
You're our Uncle Walter. I have to tell you, you're such a star here, and you should know that your name comes up on a daily basis, and almost everyone here can tell the story of when they're talking to someone and they find out you work for WCBS. Your name comes up almost immediately, Rich.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. But I was trying to think back and all of the people that I've met. I'm afraid to try to honor everybody who worked with us, because you're going to leave somebody out. And I remember just standing in front of the CBS building. I was working at WXLO, which was 99X, and I was going in to do my audition. And I stood there and I thought, well, this is never going to happen, but I'll kick myself forever if I don't try it. And in I went, it was unbelievable. I got a phone call from the late Rob Sunday, who said, you're the next WCBS reporter. And I was taking the job that Jerry Nachman had. And I was like, this is really, am I going to be able to do this? And then 43 years later, I left.
I have the experience of being a reporter and having people come up to me when they see the WCBS mic flag. They're like, if they're a public official, some of them are famous for clearing the room to get to the WCBS mic to make sure that their message, anything they wanted to say, get out. We were able to look behind the curtain and the inner workings of New York City, and that's the best part, I think, about being a radio reporter.
Well, and you think about, because I knew I was going to come on here, I wrote a little list of the people that I met over the years. And they'd say this is very incomplete, but it just gives you some sense of the privilege that we have as reporters. And Phil is looking at me across the table, and here's a guy who, when he retired, got a note from the Pope. I mean, think about, he actually was born in New York City in the Village, and probably never dreamed that he would get a note from the Pope. But anyway, here's a listing of a few people I met. Bill Paley, Ronald Reagan, Nelson Rockefeller, John Lennon, Barack Obama, Pope John Paul II, Mother Teresa, Cardinals O'Connor, Egan, and Dolan, Detective Stephen McDonald, Elton John, Mayors Beam, Koch, Dinkins, Giuliani, Bloomberg, de Blasio, and Adams before he was mayor. Senators Moynihan, D'Amato, Schumer, Gillibrand, Javits, and more. And, the governor's just, it's just an amazing array of people and memories. But I think about WCBS, and here we are in an area of Italy that is prone to earthquakes. And we were just in Assisi yesterday. As far as I'm concerned, WCBS's departure from the scene is a radio earthquake for New York City. It just is. It's just an indescribable vacuum that will be left by the absence of WCBS 880 News.
Well said, Rich Lamb, and it is devastating for so many people, but I want to keep things positive because I am at both in awe of the people who have come before me and people who are working with me now, the listeners who have showered us with so much praise. And I'm also very appreciative of the opportunity to come on the air right now and discuss all this and talk about it. Not many corporations would allow people to do that. And I want to thank Chris Olivero, and I want to thank Ben Meverek and Ivan Lee for letting us do this. It is not a given that you'll have this opportunity. And that shows you the kind of classy people that have led this radio station now and going back 100 years just about.
And Rich Lamb, it's been an honor to be on this radio station with your voice as part of it.
Well, an honor to be with you guys. And your repartee in the morning is unequaled. The two of you just play off each other, and you get the job done, you get the news across, but I'm never bored. And that really is a unique gift that you, I guess if you had a unique gift, both of you couldn't share it, but maybe you can in this case.
We're all such geeky grammarians, aren't we?
Well, and we had Jane Tillman-Erming on. She was really a phenomenal editor. She is the one who would catch me in the subject-predicate disagreements when no one else could.
Those are the kinds of disagreements we had back in the day. Rich Lamb, our WCBS reporter, who I remember was able to cite from memory this promo that aired on WCBS. He would be able to do it word for word. You ready? Here we go.
News is more than facts. News is information you need, presented in clear, direct language. Information about your town, your state, your world. I'm CBS News correspondent Walter Cronkite, and weekday afternoons I'll be here on WCBS New York with news and comment on one of the stories that's important to you. Pat Parson and Ben Farnsworth keep you up to the minute, and I'll be here at 4:36 with Walter Cronkite reporting.
That means it's time for the traffic story, isn't it, here on WCBS? And here's Tom Kaminsky.
And the traffic rolling on, or not rolling on, as the case may be.
A high of 85 for wrapping up the weekend and WCBS on Sunday night.
Do you remember the horror, the fear, the terror we used to feel, Paul, on the rare occasion we'd go to the top of the hour headlines and there'd be nothing written?
When you need to know why, when it matters most. This is WCBS 880 News.
It didn't happen often, but every so often the writer would forget or it would just vanish off the screen, and we would be forced to just ad-lib. Let's see, what happened today in the news? Do you remember, Paul?
That was the only time we ever had any hair on our head because our eyebrows would go up to the top of the scalp.
All right, well, listen, this is obviously a retrospective. We're having a great time as we bring people into the radio station who've been here for so many years.
This is WCBS, by the way, and WCBS FM HD2 New York. Got to get the legal ID, and as you know, that's the way it works around here.
And last time, I'm Wayne Cabot.
I'm Paul Murnane.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
WCBS 880 News. The People.
Monday in the morning at News Radio 88 WCBS.
Dave Flanders and WCBS News Radio 88 Mobile Unit number 1.
The Moments.
An unidentified man who is apparently walking on a tightrope between the towers of the World Trade Center.
The events that shaped our lives.
All I can tell you is there were severe electrical storms to the north, just prior to the blackout here.
Strike Schmike, enough already.
The anxiety is setting in about how I'm going to get home, and I haven't gotten to work yet.
Here's Wayne Cabot, Paul Murnane, and Bridget Quinn.
True story. There was a feature on WCBS invented by Jeff Caplan, who we've spoken to here, called Dishin' Digital. Jeff left. Chris Quimby, who was one of our former news directors, programming directors, came in. And I'm walking down the hall after Jeff left, and she says, "Congratulations." I said, "What?" She goes, "You're the voice of Dishin' Digital." And before I could raise my voice to ask for more money and object, she was gone. And that was
the CBS way.
It's the CBS way. And the man who put it together, I did none of the heavy lifting, by the way.
You did a lot of heavy lifting.
Well, Rob Hawley, who is here, who is a WCBS writer and is now over at the ABC
Radio Network, yeah.
You did the heavy lifting, I do believe. You wrote those, and you were a writer here. And you must have Rob, some pretty wonderful memories of the place. I know when I see your face here, I start laughing about the many high times and laughs that we had together.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'll tell you a story about Wayne Cabot. Because, Wayne, I was listening to you guys on the way down.
You were the writer in the afternoon with that.
I was the writer in the mornings, but then I was the writer in the afternoons. I wrote Wayne a lot of stories. But this story goes back to before my child was born. And I was so excited. I was absolutely so excited. And we finally got the get-go where I can go in and I can start to tell people. And I go in and... at the end of my shift, I am on my way out. And this goes back to what you guys were talking about, how you can hear WCBS absolutely everywhere. It wasn't just New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. It booms into Pennsylvania. It booms all over the place. And so I go in and I tell Wayne, I said, "Oh, I'm going to have a kid." Wayne's, "Oh, congratulations. Everyone's congratulated me." I walk out high as a kite. I go and get in my car. And I turn on the radio, and I hear, they used to do the credits, and you say, in the newsroom, so-and-so. And I hear Wayne Cabot say, "And congratulations to our writer, Rob Hawley, who's going to be a dad." And at that moment, I realized that I hadn't told my mom yet. So, Wayne Cabot, and I'm praying that my mother's not listening to WCBS in Philadelphia, where she could, because Wayne Cabot cannot keep a secret to save his life.
We love disrupting families, by the way.
People learned very early on, and if they didn't, shame on them, that if you come in here and say something, it's going to get on the air.
Yes,
just
absolutely.
assume it's public information.
Yes.
Anything else you want to share with us? We'll keep it between us. Nobody will know.
No. Well, I mean, there's been a lot of talk. I've been listening, obviously, since I heard the news, because I spent nearly 20 years here. Started here in 1999, 3 stations ago, back in Black Rock, and left here in early 2018. And so a lot of people have been talking a lot about legacy, about how to remember this station. And legacy for me in radio is tough because it's very ephemeral, right? We talk and it's out in the air and it's gone. And same thing with journalism. Journalism very rightly is called the first draft of history. But what do you do with that first draft, right? You rewrite it, you revise it. So legacy, unless you're talking about some gigantic story, Pentagon Papers, Watergate, Abu Ghraib, it's very difficult. But I was thinking about the lessons of WCBS. And one of the lessons is from our friend Wayne Cabot. And if you have never heard the term cabotage, I'm going to introduce you to that.
We were going to get into that, weren't we?
And Wayne Cabot is one of the most brilliant broadcasters I have ever had the pleasure of working with, and I've worked with a lot of them. And he's a brilliant writer, and I wrote... How many scripts did I write for you?
Oh,
thousands?
I can't count. Easily thousands, yes.
And most of them you read, and you just read them the way I wrote them, which was great. But every so often, Wayne, for whatever reason, boredom, that's what Wayne would always say, boredom, think they can do something a little bit better, likes a different way, he would start to rewrite it. But he wouldn't rewrite it in a commercial break. He would rewrite it as he's reading it. And then he does this thing where I can only describe it as the linguistic equivalent of painting yourself into a corner.
I'm still in that corner half the time.
Because you're rewriting it, but then you're also reading it, and you hit a part in the script that you've already said, now you have no idea where to go anymore. And I'm out in the newsroom, I'm screaming, if you would only read it the way I wrote it.
Now I know why Wayne's picture is on a dartboard over the Writers Guild.
But the lesson of the Cabot, and that's Wayne Cabot sabotaging himself. But the lesson of the cabotage is that Wayne dared to do it. In that moment,
you're a brave soul.
Wayne said, I can do something better here. Now, sometimes you fall flat on your face, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of times you didn't. And a lot of times you made it better. And that's one of the lessons for all of us is dare to do something. Dare to, reach for something better. Even if you're going to fall down, dare to do it. And then one more, if you'll indulge me, because you have not told me when I need to get out.
That was about 2 minutes ago. Okay,
do you need to go to traffic and weather?
No, we're fine. Go ahead.
All right, fine. The other one is about Rich Lamb. And Rich Lamb, if there's a better storyteller than Wayne Cabot, it's Rich Lamb. And how many times have we heard Rich Lamb talk about something as, forgive me, mundane as a parade? He goes out in the St. Patrick's Day parade. We all know what the parade's going to look like. We know what it's going to sound like. It's the same thing every year. But Rich Lamb would make it different. Because the very poetry of his prose would take you into a different place for that very mundane, very ordinary, very expected thing. And so then the other lesson of WCBS is you can make the ordinary extraordinary. If you do like Wayne Cabot and dare, you can make things better. You can make things awesome.
Rob, thank you. Bless you. And I will say, speaking of Rich Lamb and painting word pictures and taking a mundane story, there's a Rockefeller Center Christmas tree lighting every year. All right, we know it. It's a big tree. They turn on the damn lights. I mean, what are you going to say? The tree's lit up now. Now it's not lit up. Now it is lit up. Back to you. Well, Rich Lamb was describing, and I'm not going to do it justice, but the twinkling lights of the tree reflecting in the eyes of the children who are gathered. I'm like, oh boy, I'm paraphrasing, but that's how he would do it. And that's why at St. Patrick's Cathedral on Christmas midnight mass, Cardinal O'Connor began his mass one year with the words, Rich Lamb is a reporter for CBS Radio. He wrote me this. And the Cardinal began Christmas mass with the writing of Rich Lamb.
Yeah.
Does that say it all or what?
Absolutely.
That says something. Rob Hawley, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I guess we better get to the traffic before they fire us.
By the way, I'd like to say, if anyone's working with Wayne, keep in mind, no, that was Cabot, when they come up to you and say, what did I just hear on the air?
I've owned the term cabotage. I now like it. Here's Tom Kaminsky.
Let's go back out to Nassau County, guys. We go westbound side of the LIE from about Glen Cove Road in through Willis Avenue, in through Lakeville Road, right in through the Queens lines. Construction work there, getting in toward the Clearview. A lot of eastbound volume, too, getting out through Lakeville Road. Northern, a little bit better. Southern State, some eastbound delays there that I see, getting on out toward Meadowbrook Parkway. And also the southbound side of the FDR is still very heavy from the 70s on down, or actually from about 96th Street, down toward the 59th Street Bridge, and then more delays as we get through the 30s and down toward Houston Street. We had a crash there, had a northbound crash at 79th. That is now cleared out of the way. I'm Tom Kaminsky in the WCBS Traffic Center.
I believe we have to go to the weather forecast right now because people want that on the radio. And John Stone, are you there?
I sure am, guys. How's it going for this hour? Hopefully good?
Well, yeah, because we've had this big party going on in the newsroom, and no one is hearing a word we're saying here on the air, and I like it that way. Nobody can come in and yell at us.
The tradition continues, yes.
Exactly, and no one can hear my beautiful forecast, but I'll say it to you guys so you can enjoy the day when your day is over.
Good morning, I'm Jim Donnelly. I'm Lou Adler. And I'm Robert Vaughn. Arby Hoffman.
Rita Sands. Headlines coming up.
Breaking news. We'll cover it all. I'm Pat Parson. I'm Ben Farnsworth. Headlines coming up. This is John Wycroft. At the anchor desk, this is Tom Franklin.
Updates on the top stories, I'm Bob Glenn. Headlines coming up. This is Bill Fayen.
This is Gary Moore.
Good morning, this is Gil Gross. Keep tuned for the day's top news. Sports is
my assignment at News 88. I'm Ed Ingalls.
Coming along soon, I'm Bill Schweitzer.
This is Barry Landers.
Win Elliott with Sports Central USA. Health is what I report on. I'm Charles Crawford. Advances in medical research. I cover that field. I'm Lou Adler. Medical news. I cover it. I'm Mel Granite.
I'm Dr. Stephen Andrew Davis.
Weather is
what I report on. I'm Craig Allen.
I'm Todd Glickman. The forecast coming up.
Money is
market trends and prices. I'm Ken Pruitt.
This is Marshall Loeb with Your Dollars.
Knowing your consumer rights. I'm Elaine Rose.
This is Joe Durso Jr. Stay tuned for Report to Consumers.
Travel is.
This is Steve Birnbaum. Stay tuned for my report.
Entertainment is
the new film in town. I'm Jeffrey Lyons.
Where it's at and where it's gonna be. is the political scene. I'm Steve Flanders.
I'm Stephanie Shelton with What's Happening.
I'm Rob Sunday with news from the grapevine.
I'm Jane Tillman Irving with Perspective.
This is Anna Mae Sikorsky with Report on Women.
This is Steve Reed with Perspective.
How to get you in and out of town is...
From the News 88 Chopper, this is Neil Bush. Traffic report coming up, this is Lou Timmerlund. In the News 88 Copter, this is Tom Selleck.
No matter where the news is made, we're here to tell it best. WCBS New York. WCBS New York.
Now, was that all edited together, or did they actually need something that long to fill back in the day?
I pieced that together because I have no life. I just sit home and piece things together like that. But Barry Siegfried is the technician who mixed all of those originally back in the 1970s. And I want to say, Paul, you're hearing a lot of stuff from that era. And you know why?
Why?
When we went digital, when the digital age came around, everything was so ubiquitous, it no longer became prized and special. It's like having pictures. You have a phone probably full of pictures that you hardly ever look at, that you can't reference. But the ones you've taken physical copies of and you have around the house or framed, those are the ones that you see all the time. That's kind of the radio equivalent of what you're hearing here. And it's meant, there's no disrespect to all of those in the digital era. It's just, there's just an avalanche of stuff that we couldn't possibly get through.
The wonderful work of Steve Carman on that News Is jingle package that we ran. I had heard that they had like basically a room with like 3 walls lined with the little tape cartridges, the carts we had to all those, depending on the hour that you were on the air, that you would run, right?
It was. I can't imagine being a WCBS engineer technician having to put all that together because there were many, many elements to just 1 hour of broadcast.
He mentioned carts, and often that was where the commercials were kept. I remarked earlier today, I really think that there's bravery is the word for the account executives who have stood their ground selling this radio station and the airtime over the years so it could remain a viable business, getting doors slammed in their faces from ad agencies, ad buyers, and from businesses.
That's why they have those flat noses.
That's why they did this, right? And you've heard good commercials over the years and bad. And here's one that really kind of lingers as a low point of the high points. You remember Tom Carvel?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Here he is with one of his franchises.
The radio station was built on Cookie Puss, I was told, because that was the only client we had for a very long time.
Here he is with one of his franchisees, Tom Carvel.
We're here at Carvel College with 2 Hindu gentlemen. How long you been in this country?
4 weeks ago we came to US.
Came here? Now, where you got a Carvel store?
Well, Carvel store is the Lewisburg, Pennsylvania.
In Lewisburg?
Lewisburg.
Who makes the ice cream and cakes in your store? Who's the cake decorator? Who's better, you or your son?
I and my son both.
Your son is good? Are you going to say anything at all? Are you going to have Wednesday is Sunday at your Carvel store? Say that. Say Wednesday is Sunday.
Wednesday is Sunday.
It's Sunday. Carvel store. That's right. Now, do you know what thinny thin is? Thinny thin. Dietary frozen dessert.
Dietary frozen
dessert, right?
Yeah.
Now, you got a Carvel store, and you're going to give away flying saucers disc.
Flying saucer disc.
With the purchase of a cake, right? Free, right?
Free.
And are you the cake decorator?
Yes.
And where's your Carvel store again? Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Whew, I hope nobody nobody who's Indian took offense to that. Oh, no. Look, Ashok Bala is here. He just came walking in. Hey, Ashok, grab that microphone for a second, would you please?
Yeah, I got to turn on the mic switch over there.
I saw you laughing as that was playing, so I figured there will not be an HR lawsuit.
Oh, yeah, come on, that's just funny.
It is just hilarious, isn't it? I am so proud that you work here. I am so proud that you continue to work at 1010 Wins, and I claim complete credit for your news radio career, despite the fact that you had a long music career before that. I said, what are you doing playing those stupid records? You got an amazing voice. You have an amazing intellect. Please come over to the dark side, and here you are.
Well, I love telling this story because I was doing afternoons on 102.7, right, across the hall. It was Superstorm Sandy. And you happened to go to the bathroom where my station was.
Which I have to do right now, by the way.
I can handle it for a couple minutes if you got to run.
No.
But
I'd like to point out all the great conversations in radio happen in a bathroom.
So you heard me and actually thought I was entertaining, which I don't think many people did. And you came in to tell me that, which I very much appreciated. I'm like, Wayne Cabot is coming to tell me I'm good on the radio? And you told me I should be doing news. What am I doing playing music? And I said, well, I'm a dumb disc jockey. And you said, no, you're not. And a friendship developed. And you are the reason I'm here. And this station has made me such a better broadcaster. It's working with you guys you're the gold standard. The way you talk about Pat Parson, Ben Farnsworth, all these people, that's how I feel about you.
Thank you, Ashok, and thank you for following me over to the dark side here.
It's so fun. I can't tell people how fun doing this format is, and it's so unique. There's no station like WCBS.
But it's like being a DJ, isn't it? You're just DJing the news as opposed to the music.
Yeah.
Right?
And when you have a co-anchor like you guys do, it just adds a twist that really, there's nothing like it. It's TV news. Yeah, there's two anchors, but they can't do the kind of banter you do.
Some of my memories that I'm going to treasure working with you as a co-anchor when Wayne was off, and you have the best radio stories. Do you tell people about your radio background and your work with Howard Stern?
Sure. Yeah, I was on K-Rock many years ago. When 92.3 was K-Rock, and I was Dead Air Dave, and just a DJ on the station until the censor for Howard left, Andre Gardner. Your friend and my friend,
Great
Wayne.
Guy.
Yeah, he's afternoons at MGK in Philly. And, so he's the reason I became the censor, because he said, hey, this guy Ashok is responsible. He's not going to mess up the license of the station. And I said, I don't want to be a censor. I'm Dead Air Dave. So I kept saying no. It was like the only time in 30 years I've had the upper hand. So I was able to get a deal that was, okay.
By the way, I think we could use you as a censor for the next hour and a half of this broadcast, because who knows what's going to be unleashed. Dead Air Dave, Ashok Bala.
And don't forget Dylan and A.B. Love.
Oh, right. Anything else?
It's a storied career that's irrelevant compared to yours.
Listen, will you text me radio stories after I'm done here? We have to keep that tradition going.
Yeah, let's go to Rusty Fender now with the traffic update. Here's Tom Kaminsky.
Somebody mentioned Dead Air. Maybe we get Dead Air Dave as part of Dead Air. Yeah, my band needs some gigs. We need some working gigs now.
Yes, you do.
Yes, indeed, we do. We're very happy to be doing stuff though for Joe Durso and Light of Day and my friend Jim Monahan. We're very happy to be part of our band Dead Air. So shameless plug right there for the band. Thanks, Jim. There you go. We head back over to the FDR Drive southbound side. We still have only the right lane getting by at Houston Street. We had a collision there. We had at least one lane blocked. Northbound side at Grand Street, we now have a collision in the left lane. We had another crash on the northbound side getting on up toward the area of 79th. The crash there is now cleared out of the way. We head back on out to Nassau County, westbound side Southern State, getting in toward the Seaford Oyster Bay Expressway. Northern State delays in toward Lakeville Road. That is all at this point, just midday construction work. We've had delays also on the northbound New York State Thruway getting up and over the Cuomo-Tappan Zee Bridge. We had a Rockland-bound vehicle fire. We had the left and center lanes out of service there. I'm Tom Kaminsky in the WCBS Traffic Center.
Wouldn't you know, in the middle of all this, I have an Odyssey system update on my computer. Restart now or postpone. And it reminds me that I also have not done a compliance, one of the modules. They keep telling me, get your compliance done. And I've been able to dodge it this long, and I think I got out of having to do it, Paul.
You better do that update now, because I don't know if there's a lot of time left to get that done.
Sunshine mixing with clouds, quite nice. High 87, clear and moonlit tonight, and we plan on being out howling at it. 63 for the low in the city, 50s in most suburbs.
Tomorrow sunny, a couple of clouds around near 80. The weekend looks great. Sunny, 83 Saturday, sunny, 85 on Sunday.
We were talking a little while ago about how really, really hot it was in the summer of 1977. Do you have handy, Paul, that audio of Pat and Ben when they were ready to kill each other about how hot it was? You think you get agitated when it's really hot out, and you get hot under the collar. These two were on the air when it was 104 degrees out.
Yep, and here they are. This is from July 12th of 1977. Pat Parson, Ben Farnsworth, and I'll tell you for a moment why their weather forecast may play a role in history.
That makes today the hottest day in New York City in 11 years. The last time it reached this level was July 3rd, 1966, and the all-time of 106 was set on July 9th, 1936. Good afternoon. I'm Pat Parson with Ben Farnsworth.
When the temperature's higher than my bowling score, I know it's getting hot. Of course, right around your golf score, I guess, Pat.
Your IQ.
It's 8 minutes now
now after 3 o'clock. He's Pat Parson. I'm the nice guy, Ben Farnsworth. Noticeably cooler, less humid, lows 64 to 69 degrees. And then tomorrow, bright sunny skies, comfortably warm, dry air, highs 82 to 87. And then on Saturday, sunny and delightful. Oh, a beautiful weekend, highs in the middle 80s.
You know, they're talking there about this change in the weather that's coming, and that, by the way, is from a WCBS appreciation website that's run by a guy by the name of Don Swaim, who is a writer, producer, and anchorman here, and thank you so much for preserving those memories. I see that July 12th, 1977, that's dated, and I wonder if that change in the weather they're talking about brought about the lightning bolt that gets the credit for hitting those lines near Indian Point that started the blackout of 77, which began on July 13th.
And let's go right to that, Paul. We have Art Athens, his Let's Find Out retrospective, his... excuse me.
88 looks at 77.
That's it. And we're going to come out of the commercial here for... Do you guys remember Caldors? Yeah, one of the many commercials that came and went. But here we go. And this is... I love the way Art put this together, the blackout of 77.
Come on. Bring your film to a friend. Caldor. We're the place for people who love to take pictures and save money while saving holiday memories.
And now we continue with 88, looks at 77.
I can guarantee that the chances of a brownout or a blackout are less than they've been in the last 15 years.
Charles Luce, chairman of the board of Conn Ed on ABC's Eyewitness News Conference a week before the blackness came.
And that the chances are less here than in most other cities in the United States. I can't guarantee, however, that because we do use machines, and the machines are run by human beings, that under no possible circumstances could it happen, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Think again. 9 p.m., July 13th, one of the many conversations between the New York Power Pool and Conn Ed's Energy Control Center.
Bill, I hate to bother you, but you better shed about 400 megawatts of load or you're going to lose everything down there.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
You're trying to? All you got to do is hit the button or shed it, and then you worry about it afterwards. But you got to do something there, go and then tie on you.
Yeah, right.
That conversation was followed a half hour later by...
If anyone can still hear me, we are having electrical difficulties in at least this portion of Manhattan.
Anchorman Greg Baker trying to broadcast to News 88 listeners. It was 9:34, and the blackout that couldn't happen was happening. Reporter Irene Cornell reported from her Westchester home.
All I can tell you is there were severe electrical storms to the north, just prior to the blackout here. It went out... Lights totally went out about 15 minutes ago.
All off-duty cops were ordered to report. Airports closed. Trains limped to a halt in their tunnels, and it was soon obvious that this was a serious situation. A Conn Ed spokesperson struggled for an explanation.
A series of lightning strikes knocked out the power lines to the Indian Point 3 power station. Shortly after 9 o'clock, we went into a 5% voltage reduction. Then we went into an 8% voltage reduction. Then we shed some load in Elmsford and Mount Vernon, doing everything we could to alleviate the strain on the system, but it wasn't enough. And about 9:34 p.m., we lost the entire system.
Perhaps when Charles Luce got a call at his candlelit Westchester home saying, "Charlie, we've lost Manhattan," he had memories of the great blackout of 65, New Yorkers helping each other. But this time, New Yorkers helped themselves. Reporter Steve Reed saw that ugly part of the story as it began developing.
A heavy rainfall has started here in New York City, and fortunately for the people along 14th Street, the rain is a blessing in disguise. When I came here to the headquarters of Conn Ed, there was a lot of shattered glass, a lot of police sirens, police lights, a lot of police activity along the block. Sporadic looting had started. However, it is under control now. The police are stationed, and as I said, the rainfall has dispersed some of the crowd that had started to get a bit unruly.
No one at the Conn Ed offices could tell reporters anything. At one point, a Conn Ed official said there would be a statement as soon as the TV cameras showed up. TV, protested one radio reporter. Wait a second. That's ridiculous. Forget about television. Radio is on the air. This is radio's night. And indeed it was. People turned to their car and transistor radios for information. What happened? How long would it last? Mayor Beam, setting up an emergency command post at City Hall, was on the air to reassure New York.
I've ordered an emergency a little after 10. I've been in touch with Commissioner Codd and Acting Commissioner Murphy of the Fire Department, and also our Traffic Commissioner,
The effect was, to understate it, eerie, as Ben Farnsworth learned as he battled his way through murky Manhattan.
It is bedlam trying to drive in this city. You can see nothing, obviously, other than what flashes before your headlights. The problem you have is that there are people everywhere. Old people, young people. I've seen kids that can't be any older than 6 or 7 years of age running in the streets here.
People walked 30, 40, 50 flights of stairs to get to hotel rooms or apartments. Others slept in hotel lobbies, offices. Still others took to local bars for candlelight celebrations. Celebrating what? They knew not. Mayor Beam groped through the darkness for information. Shortly before midnight, 2 hours into the blackout, he relayed this reassuring news. Things were much better, technically, than they were in 1965.
In fairness to Mr. Luce, I asked him, when does he think we might be able to get relief? He says, I'm a little hesitant saying it to you, but he says it's possible that within an hour they're going to begin to reconnect parts. And he thinks in several hours that the total system will be all right.
But it was far from all right. The mayor ordered New York closed for the day, and by noon, after 15 hours of no power, Beam blew a fuse.
I want to express first my total outrage that at this hour, the city of New York is still without power.
It was radio's night indeed, and the next Monday, on the back page, full page, New York Times front section, was an ad from WCBS thanking and listing every single anchor, reporter, technician, desk assistant who was part of our magnificent blackout coverage that informed New York City and cemented WCBS as the voice of New York.
We now return to WCBS 880 News. The people, the moments, the events that shaped our lives.
If you hear a lot of music playing or dead air, it's because we're all giving hugs. Here in the newsroom, here in the studio.
Yeah.
I see Marla and Peter have come in. Hey, can we tell the secret about you two now?
I think we can let it out after all these years. Come on. Get over on the microphones over there.
The two of you got a thing going on?
The secret might be out.
You guys had to do hush-hush at the radio station for so many years because no one could know that you were dating. No one could know that there was a flame a-burning between the two of you.
I love how they're trying to get to the microphones and they have to hug about 6 people on the way. That's that kind of day, isn't it?
And be careful because the longer I vamp, the more dangerous I get. Hey,
we've noticed that.
Peter, I got to tell you something. Marla, we hear you all the time, and we're blessed for it. Peter, we haven't heard you in a while, and people all ask about you. People all remember you every time. Every time they mention the list of greats, your name is on it, and rightfully so.
It's very kind of you to say. I mean, I think that the thing that I've thought about a lot over the past couple of weeks and listening today, when you work with this group of reporters and anchors, you better bring your A game. The bar is set so high. I covered a bunch of stuff, notably 9/11 anniversaries with Rich Lamb and Sean Adams. You better bring your A game. You cover the marathon with Marla. You better bring your A game. The level of talent and ability is so high that I can't tell you how many times I'd finish up working with Rich or Sean or Marla or other people. It's like, I gotta do better at this. And being on with Wayne and Paul and these, it's like, geez, I gotta figure out, like, I'm gonna try to improve every day to try to uphold the standard and the level of game that is brought by anchors and reporters and writers and producers every single day.
Well, the nicest compliment that there have been so many messages is that people put our names in with the same group that built this radio station. We say that, we stand on the foundation built by so many great people. Yep. And your names come in so many times, and people have been remembering your work. And Marla, you have to, I guess, draw a deep breath and express gratitude and respect for this place.
Yeah, I mean, we are standing in the footsteps of giants, and you guys are giants as well, and you're part of our morning routine in the Haskell House, and I don't know what we'll do come Friday, but, we've raised a new generation of listeners with our boys, and they love you, and we love you guys, and, I said it in my little memory recording that when I walked into the newsroom in 1997, I was the New Jersey correspondent, and I was so nervous, so scared. And when I sat in the anchor chair as well, and then when I sat in the anchor chair with you guys, I was terrified. Absolutely terrified.
You need a little bit. Well, you need a little bit of that terror, now. I think, to be better. I mean, I think.
Yeah.
Although I got to be honest with you, I'm completely relaxed lately, and that maybe is a dangerous thing.
No, it's all good. You guys sound great. We've been listening to the show and listening to all the oldies and the founders of the station, and I just can't believe that I had the opportunity to be a part of it, to be a part of this history of the greatest news station on the planet.
To be honest, I mean, we've seen the possibility of this coming, I think, all of us in this business. And I think that as time has gone on, we have had to learn to do this with less in the way of resources. And you do become more relaxed and more confident because you feel the WCBS legacy and you feel the expectation of what the listener wants.
Well, here's my opportunity to jump in, Paul, and say one of the reasons I'm relaxed and confident is because I know you always have my back.
Yeah.
And that if I'm at a loss for words, you never are. So
never.
There's always, you are a big warm blanket, my friend. And
you're my blanket.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man.
If I could just break up the mistiness here, I think
we'll get a room.
There was heartbreak a week ago when we learned the news for all of us. I haven't been here for almost 2 years. But I think it speaks the way this whole thing has been handled with the two of you, with everybody who's on the air, speaks to the professionalism and the class of the people who work here. And I think that it's important to note. We've seen it, those who have worked here, we've seen it for years, for generations, people have heard it. But you have continued with your professionalism and class, so thank you for all of that.
Thank you, Peter.
And thanks for being great teachers. You really taught me so much.
We've learned from you. You're out and doing the story and learning the sources and learning the new equipment. We've all learned from each other here.
And I've been privileged to be here for some of the biggest events in New York City history, of course, 9/11. Miracle on the Hudson, where it was the end of the day. I was pregnant and sitting in one of the edit booths, and Tim Sheld comes by. He's like, "A plane just landed on the Hudson! Get out!" And we were at 57th Street, and literally you saw the plane floating down the Hudson. But through all the sad moments, the miracle moments, the wonderful moments, the New York City Marathon, working with Peter and working with you guys, I'll never ever forget it, and I will be forever grateful for being on WCBS.
Marla, it's funny, you mentioned Tim Sheld. He's here now. Chris Quimby is here, two of our managers, the people who used to come in and tell me to stop saying that, and now they're just smiling, and it's nice, and hopefully they'll be able to stick around for a minute, and we can get them on the radio and see how we're doing. Get a little air check session.
I think we need to take a quick break, though, because we have to set up things to move on with the show.
All right.
Say. In the radio business, that's a saying.
Well, how about this, then, as we wait? Rita Sands recalls how it felt to be at the anchor desk amid the bedlam of breaking news and the confidence knowing no one does it better.
At first you'd see the bulletin light over the console. We'd have a bulletin sounder. Let's go live to our reporter in the field. People who were real loyal listeners stop. They hold their breath. They pull over. They really listen. Because the very next thing you would hear would be one of the voices of our street reporters, Rich Lamb.
People are standing on their feet, cheering.
Or you'd hear Art Athens.
And I'm going to run out in the hall because something else is going on, Rich.
Or Tim Sheld.
People are still streaming out, being
Irene Cornell.
Electrical storms just prior to the blackout.
Fred Fishkin.
The waves are furious out there.
Steve Reed.
Shattered glass, a lot of police sirens.
Mary Gay Taylor.
The dust is still swirling all around downtown Manhattan.
Steve Flanders.
Cox said he'll make known his decision next week.
Jerry Nachman, God rest his soul. And in a certain kind of story would also be Tom Kaminsky and Craig Allen. Any one of those voices, people that have been around New York for a long time, close their eyes, they know what that sounds like, and they know that they're going to do one heck of a job in setting out to explain what happened in pictures of the mind.
Wonderful memories of WCBS and the work we've done. What do you say we update the traffic story? That's what people come to the radio for.
That's a fine idea. Tom O'Hanlon, good morning to you.
Well, good morning, dear friends, gentlemen, ladies. This is an awesome occasion here. Glad to be part of it. Northbound on FDR Drive.
Well, briefly, the weather will tell you about sun with some clouds around, 77 today. Clear, comfortable tonight, 63 in the city, 50s in most suburbs, and tomorrow sunny with a high around 80 degrees and 70 in Central Park this morning, Wayne.
Paul, thank you. As we go to, I'm just looking outside at all of our friends in the newsroom who are gathering for this occasion, and I'm proud to say that some of the friends are the people who hired us, who admonished us, who counseled us, who steered us, and wow, I'm looking at them all right now looking at me, and I'm feeling that little pit in my stomach like I'm about to get fired, but too late. It already happened.
The great Harvey Nagler is joining us. And Harvey, you're going to need to turn on your mic over there. It's that first button there. And when you turn it on, lo and behold, look at me telling the boss what to do.
Well, at my age, you need to do that.
It's so great to see you.
Well, it's so great to be here, and obviously with mixed emotions. And as Wayne just said, one of the great things about being here is, and you feel it on the air as you listen to all you guys, is that you're all friends. You know, it's such a remarkable group of individuals who work at the radio station, and you guys who have worked at the radio station literally for decades, you know, all of that comes across to the listeners who really appreciate and who clearly will miss you.
It's amazing when you look around the room, Harvey, and you see all the people you hired. I'm not even kidding. I mean, there's Tim Sheld, who later hired a bunch of people. So between the two of you, you've hired pretty much the entire radio station.
Yeah, that's true.
Sean Adams, you want to say something about this, or are you just saying that you were among the hires?
No, thank you for hiring me in 1995. It put me on the course to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you know, I was fortunate enough to know you guys and to appreciate you all, and, you know, I'm totally honored, and yes, I think I've hired half of the staff that's still here, and the fact that you guys are still here, you and Tom and Joe Connolly, who was here this morning, and my good friend Rich Landsman, the sales guy, and everybody else here. It's just been an honor for me to know all of you, and that's really the rewarding thing about working at the radio station.
We all talked about stepping into some big shoes, and you stepped into fill in for some legendary features, a legendary name when you took over. Do you remember, what year did you come here? And do you remember?
It was 88.
Do you remember feeling that pressure?
You know, it's very interesting because it really was a change in time in the media. You know, you folks were talking about Jim Donnelly and Joe Vaughn and Harvey Houtman and Rita Sands, who were just fabulous, great individuals. But then there was a sort of a time when the station and the mood of the country changed to be more relatable and for broadcasters to talk to people, because as we know, anybody who's listening now, it's a one-on-one communication. You are affecting the people who are listening to you. You affect their daily lives. They wake up to you. They listen to you during the day. And that's what radio is all about. And what happened then is that we brought in Bridget Quinn, you know, who came in the morning, and it was just a completely different sound and a different mood, and the radio station became more relevant to the listeners. What we tried to do in programming is make the news more relevant to what affected the people who were listening to the radio station, and I think that sort of was the key. And also, as an all-news station, when news breaks, you know, you got to be there, and you got to be all over the big story. I'll bore you with one little story. When Rich Lamb, who is the unbelievable consummate professional, who is an unbelievable wordsmith, more so than anybody I've ever met in my whole life, Rich walks into my office and says, the Pope is coming to town in a couple of months. What are we going to do? And we talked a little bit, and I said, you know, we need to own the story, because a news station needs to own the news stories. And Rich flew on the Pope's plane, flew to Rome, flew on the Pope's plane, and came here. It was just one of the myriad of major stories that the radio station covered, and Rich was just an astounding reporter.
You know what stays with me from that reporting? I remember he was on the plane as they were coming into Newark, and he talked about the Pope's hand trembling on the armrest as he was leaning over and talking to the reporters as the plane was literally landing in Newark.
Right.
I still remember that all these years in 1995.
Harvey, when you came to this radio station, I remember one of the first things you did to brighten the sound was to take away the phony teletype sound in the background, and you called it News Without the Noise.
Right.
And it had fly swatter, a fly swatter campaign. We were News Without the Noise. Well, are you listening right now? There's nothing but noise from the newsroom, and I love that mood, that feel from all the people. Maybe News Without the Noise. Hold on a minute. I just want to torture you for a minute here.
You've been torturing people all day today.
Hey, can we get Tim to come in for a second here? Wow. Tim Sheld.
I think Harvey's writing a memo over there about the ticker in the background as we speak. Tim Sheld, not just
I need a headphone.
Not just a member of
Sean,
the management team, but actually started here as a reporter at WCBS. And Tim, do you remember when we were at Woodstock 94 and you said, hey, I'm taking a job over at ABC. You should send a tape and resume to Harvey, which was that's how long it's been since I had to look for a job. You used to send a cassette and a resume.
I heard you tell that story this morning, and I was shocked. I didn't realize that you got my job.
I didn't get your job. I replaced the report. This is a true story. I replaced
Did you get my car? Sorry about that.
No, I replaced a reporter.
Do you have a cooler from the back of that car?
A reporter who went out on a story and didn't come back.
Oh, yes, okay.
So
I know who that is.
I ended up replacing, you were replaced by a guy, Sean Coulthard.
Sean.
Who went on
big star.
Yeah, who went on to fame.
Michael Cole.
Michael Cole.
Michael Cole is a big media star in the world of wrestling now, right?
Yeah.
He's a terrific guy, and he's been terrifically successful, and his lineage comes to WCBS.
What a ride it has been, and what a privilege it has been to work with you and with Harvey and Chris Quimby, who I'd like to get on, but I think she's back out there.
There are about 800 people to get past on the way in.
Oh, Debbie just walked in.
I'll get her for you. You want Chris?
Sure, but hold on. As long as you're here, I don't want to lose you. Can we get Debbie on the microphone, please?
Yeah.
Come with me, Debbie.
Debbie, come on over here. Come over here with Tim.
I can't hear. It's a party.
I know.
That's all right.
Isn't
We'll
that
yell
beautiful?
the questions. It'll be like the White House here. We'll yell
Can't
the
hear a
questions
thing.
at you.
All right, Debbie. Hold on. Before you start, I got a little clip I want to play the two of us.
All news, all day, all night.
WCBS Newsradio 88.
74 degrees, clear this morning in New York. Already kind of a warm start. 5-day forecast in 3 minutes. Good morning. I'm Wayne Cabot.
And I'm Deborah Rodriguez. Stories still to come on WCBS Newsradio 88.
We'll tell you about a list of some well-known names found on the body.
Hey,
of the San Francisco
names found on a body. Geez, what the hell kind of news are we doing that day?
Way to pick it up each story, Wayne.
Oh, yeah, I really brought the room down, didn't I? Hey, Debbie, you sound terrific on the CBS radio network, and Harvey Nagler, who's here right now, brought you over there.
He did.
And we still resent him for it. We hated losing you, but we still keep you because you've been on the hour mornings for so many years now, and I swear you get better with every newscast.
Oh, my goodness. I hope you didn't hear my 10 a.m. this morning.
Actually, no, we were a little preoccupied. Oh, no, we did hear that. Yes, I wrote you nasty notes.
I was flummoxed because I knew I was coming here, and it was the end of everything.
Did you take some of what you learned here, though, over the radio network?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did. I think I took everything. And it's funny, wherever you go, if you've worked at 880, they think you're really special. Yeah. Right, Harv?
Absolutely right, but you are special, and everybody in this room and everybody outside is really special, which I think is why this radio station has been so extraordinarily successful over the years. It's the special people who work here.
It is. And you hired me at 880, so, yeah, we go way back.
I told this story yesterday about when I was training you in the middle of the night, and how Harvey had put a sign up on the wall that said WCBS News Time is, and it had a circle with an X through the is, because we weren't supposed to say is, because didn't you realize, Harvey, that when people say that, it means they're groping for the next thing to do?
Yes. And you didn't need it.
No,
well,
and that's why you used to slap my hands on the board every time I said it. He'd go, Don't do that.
I told that story, and I suggested that I think you liked it.
I've grown to like the memory of it.
Okay.
But you know what drove me nuts when you guys got a little looser? People said news time is. Even to this day, some people do it, and I say, that's not right. Don't do that. It drives me crazy.
Isn't it fun to rehash management directives from 1994? It's
Yes,
just a blast.
they're
isn't
still
it?
directives to me.
Hey, Debbie, give us a news time as we go into traffic, and don't say is.
Okay. WCBS News Time, a little past 11:48.
Well done. Traffic and weather together, it's fine on the 9. And here's Tom O'Hanlon.
What's a few minutes between friends, right? Well, over we go to Long Island.
Well, here's the weather forecast from the WCBS party. At 70 in Manhattan, we're heading for a high of 77. It's clear tonight, with a low of 63 in the city, 50s in most of the burbs. And tomorrow, the high temperature around near 80 degrees. We're saying goodbye to WCBS Newsradio 880, a radio station that traces its roots to 100 years ago, 1924.
Okay, here
Can
we
you
go,
believe
little
it? It's remarkable. And what is remarkable is our history as a news radio station. I want to talk to Tim Sheld, who was a reporter here and then moved into the management team. He was always a comforting presence to know that a guy who had been on the street as a reporter also was in the management office. And I'm wondering if your experience as a reporter, as an employee of WCBS, shaped what you did in that office. You knew what it was like to do the job.
Totally, because this is a very, very hard job to do. Being on the air, giving up your family, being, called and having to come in at the worst moments of your life and talk to a whole community to help them through floods, fires, pandemics, that kind of thing. So you needed to lead with a little humanity because you needed to bring people in from their families. I mean, think of Sandy. Many of us who were in this room, slept in the floor. In the middle of the night when the storm was raging, Michael Wallace was at the microphone, Alex Silverman was at the battery, and I was in this room with, we were the ones that were up all night long during the storm. And so my work as a reporter made me think that I better treat the people who worked in the newsroom with as much humanity as I could because, they really are, the heart and soul of an operation. And Harvey's over there. You don't have to bring him on, but he's responsible for me being both a reporter because he brought me over with Bernie. I was at WOR Radio and Harvey was running CBS. And I came over and was a reporter in the late 80s, early 90s. And then Harvey was the one who whispered in my ear and said, WCBS is looking for a news director. Would you be interested? When I was a network correspondent at ABC News. And so Harvey is responsible for me arriving as a reporter and me arriving as a manager to this place.
And you're also responsible for me coming into this room as an anchor. I can tell the story on the air of how I came into your office and you literally were pinching the bridge of your nose and you had your eyes closed. And the first word you said was, listen. And I said, well, Tim, that's the beginning of every great radio conversation.
What is the line that you used to use, the WCBS face? Remember that? What is it?
CBS face. It's kind of a scrunched up face. You squint your eyes. That's why we have the crow's feet on either side of our eyes.
Yeah, that Tim had issue face. You knew there was an issue when you saw that look on his face. Hey, do you have Alex ready to go over there?
I know.
Yeah, he's good to go. He's on, let's see, QGO 81.
Oh, hey, Alex, remember QGO 81?
I sure do. Hey, guys.
Alex Silverman, I love this story. It has to do with weed.
We want to tell this one?
Oh, of course we're going to tell this story. Go ahead. You tell the story.
Alex still works for the company, just so you know.
That's all right. That's okay. This is a fine story, and it's legal in most states.
At Syracuse University, and I had done a story for a radio class there about weed. About smoking weed. And that's actually how I got my first job. A program director in Syracuse heard that story and decided they wanted to put me on the air. But around that time, I was listening, and this was back in the aughts when you could first start streaming stations from around the country. And I was listening to WCBS at the gym at college. And I heard, it was 4:20 that day, I think at 4:20 p.m., and you, Wayne, said on the air, made some reference to smoking weed on 420. And I tweeted, and again, this is the very beginning of Twitter. We didn't really understand the implications as a college kid. I can't believe Wayne Cabot on WCBS just made a 420 reference. Nothing happened for a week. A week later, Steve Scott, who I think had just come back from a conference where he learned how to search Twitter, replied to my tweet and said, Wayne was so excited that you noticed his 420 reference. And I said, oh my God, Wayne Cabot at WCBS, who I grew up listening to, thinks I'm a horrible stoner, flunky kid. So I got to do something about this. So I found Wayne's email address somewhere on the internet. I sent you an email, not thinking anything would happen. Not 5 minutes later, I get an email back from you, the nicest thing I've ever seen in writing in the world, inviting me to the radio station, telling me listen to my work as a young reporter in radio in Syracuse. And the next thing I knew, I was in Tim's office, and Tim was hiring me to be a reporter and anchor at WCBS a couple of years later. And so I have both of you and 420 to thank.
Well, I think your emotions ran the gamut with me, because soon you became a manager who at times became furious at me.
I don't think I was ever furious.
Oh, there was the whole Rush Limbaugh incident. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. Rush Limbaugh called us out on something, and I addressed it on the air.
And then he talked about it, right? And he talked about it again.
Yeah.
And he was shocked that you were such a nice guy. Something like that.
Something like that.
But let me say that Alex was one of the best reporters we ever had. And this is in a room filled with some of the best reporters. Steve Burns is here. Sean is sitting next to me. Debbie's here. Debbie was a reporter early on. We worked together at WR. But Alex was one of the best reporters we had in my time at this radio station, and one of the best anchors. And to lose him as a reporter and an anchor to become a manager was really hard for the organization. But it was better for Alex, I think. And look, he's in a terrific place now, but he has a real place in history for the radio station.
Well, it's incredible to hear you say that, Tim, and I have you to thank for it, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person today. And you were talking about Sandy earlier, and whenever I think about my time reporting at WCBS, it comes to mind because it was definitely the biggest, most kind of broadly impactful thing that I covered. And I was thinking this week about a moment when I was out there in Lower Manhattan covering Sandy, and I was, it was dark, it was flooded, I was looking up at the New York Stock Exchange and the lights were out. And I kind of blurted out this line, and it struck me as bizarre at the time, but I said, I've never felt more alone in New York City. Wow. And you know what I realized a couple of days after that, when I started getting messages from all over the region and actually all over the country from people who had heard us that night, from their dinner tables and from their cars and their houses with no power, and they said, you kept us company. The most important thing that you did was you reassured us. And it kind of hit me in that moment that I was not alone. And that was the whole point. The entire point of what we're doing here, when we are talking, when people are hearing us, they are hearing themselves, and they are not alone. And you've asked a lot of people this week what you think the legacy of the radio station is. For me, that's it. It's that people were not alone. We were a companion. We gave them hope. And, we believed we'd always be there.
Always the reporter, Alex, and you put it so well there. Your remarks are... the room has finally fallen silent. Harvey, what do you think?
What he had to say, and I think that the people at the radio station don't realize the impact that they have, particularly at moments of crisis, because there are literally hundreds of thousands of people who turn to the radio station. And you can see that in the outpouring and the response from people who have talked about the demise of the radio station and how important it was to them and what it means to them and how important it was as they went about their daily lives. And the jobs that you guys do day in and day out is unheralded, and it's going to be a huge loss to the tri-state area.
Harvey Nagler, Tim Sheld, Chris Quimby, our present managers. We have about 30 managers out there, and no one has yet come in here to yell at us for blowing the format up. We didn't get the traffic and weather together on the 8s this time. We will not be doing it after Monday. But you know what we're going to do? Just this one time. One more time.
One more time?
Set your time to WCBS News 88. 4 tones will follow. The 4th and final tone marks the exact time.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
WCBS 880 News. The People.
Monday in the morning at News Radio 88 WCBS.
Dave Flanders and WCBS News Radio 88 Mobile Unit number 1.
The Moments.
Reggie Jackson has hit his third home run of the game.
An unidentified man who is apparently walking on a tightrope between the towers of the World Trade Center.
The events that shaped our lives.
All I can tell you is there were severe electrical storms to the north, just prior to the blackout here.
Strike Schmike, enough already.
The anxiety is setting in about how I'm going to get home, and I haven't gotten to work yet.
Here's Wayne Cabot, Paul Murnane, and Bridget Quinn.
It's a rare thing to have a New York politician who actually understands how the radio works and what it's like to be on the radio and the challenges of radio. But we were lucky to have that with the former governor of New York, David Paterson, on the line.
Governor Paterson, wow, it's great to have you back on the radio again. It's been a little while, and I just remember having spoken with you about what a connection this particular radio station has to you. I love that story. Thanks for coming on with us. It means the world.
Well, it's as I was growing up in Long Island, and I couldn't read the newspaper because I'm legally blind, and the television had not embraced the news the way it has today. This was really my interest, the first when WINS started in 1965. Then News Radio 88 in 1967, which I liked more because, first of all, I like to hear the news without hearing a teletype behind it. And secondly, because I just thought that the coverage was more extensive. And I remember in 1968, and I believe the newsman was Palmer Payne, he delivered the message that Martin Luther King had been murdered in Tennessee. And just, big moments where my first understanding of it came from listening to this station. I'm really sorry that this is going away.
Yeah, we are too. And I know how meaningful it was to all of us when you became governor of New York, and suddenly we had the inside track. That was nice. How you doing, by the way? How you doing? Because we think about you a lot. We really do. And we revere our listeners, and there's so many over the years, and you probably had the most success of any of them. And I hear you on the radio still. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I hear you on the radio still. You got your opinions. It's an interesting time in American history, and it's getting more and more difficult, isn't it, in this news environment to get real information out?
It really is, and I think that was what the standard of when all news stations first came on was not only to report the news, but to report it accurately and not to jump to conclusions sometimes as you see in the print media. And that's why I so appreciated listening to the station. I remember the first day prior to the station coming on, they had a psychiatrist whose name was Dr. Rose Franzblau. And she used to do pieces on 88. So then they incorporated her into the whole news channel, news station. But that didn't last too long. And they had another daily feature called Spectrum. And it would come on 9 times, and different reporters and people of note would comment and talk about things going on in society. So there was really a tremendous amount of creativity at the station that I always appreciated.
I thought WCBS sounded important, but you raise an important point too, Governor, that it was really a cast of thousands here. You could turn on this radio station, and maybe that's what made it sound important, that there were so many people involved in putting it together.
Oh, absolutely. And, Irene Cornell and some of the other news people, and that they would go right in the thick of the fire. Now, I remember one time with you, Paul, when they had this event called the Million Youth March, and they flew a helicopter over it, and it upset the crowd, and they all started running for cover. And as I'm running for cover, I saw you, and we did an interview while we were both fleeing the scene.
I remember that, Governor. I remember that.
Governor David Paterson, you remember the name Bill Fan, don't you?
Yes.
Of course, a mainstay on WCBS. And I'd like to, Governor, thank you for coming on with us, and I'm going to gift you and all of us with that marvelous voice once again. We heard from his daughter, Robin. just yesterday, and she said, I hope I'll be hearing my dad's voice. Well, here's a classic Bill Fein on WCBS, and wait till you hear how quick the helicopter traffic reporter is, Lou Timelot, when Bill makes a rare gaffe. Here we go.
U.S. Navy has just announced that it has suspended dumping of obsolete munitions in the oceans until all alternative methods of disposal have been studied. And I just got myself in deep trouble with the Musicians Union. Here's Lou Timelot.
Well, Bill, I thought for a minute we had heard the last of Hoagie Carmichael, but I was glad we're just losing some munitions.
As they say, that's a keeper, that one.
Oh, I love that. Hoagie Carmichael reference on WCBS at 12:08.
Here's Tom O'Hanlon with the traffic story, Tom.
You know, that brings back a fun memory. When I was in college, a friend got me a ride in the WCBS traffic helicopter with Lou, and we flew around the Empire State Building antenna. Among other things, we even buzzed Fordham when I was a Fordham student.
CBS Weather Center. Hello, Craig Allen.
This is the Weather Center right here, right now. And,
wherever you are.
Wherever I am. And here's the interesting thing. It's 88 degrees right now, and we are plus or minus 5 degrees of that. So in honor of Harvey Nagler, that is the weather guarantee for today. We're going for a high of 88. That means that if I get that, I mean, really, 5 degrees either side. Thank you so much for that, Harvey. I mean, he's over there in the corner. He's like, yeah, I remember that. It was great.
You know what? It worked. We had a bin.
You better believe it.
Bin of postcards we got. A massive bin of postcards.
Right.
People were all into that contest.
You better believe it. And you know what we spoke about earlier this morning, and I'll do it later. We never had a jingle for weather, correct?
Great. Are you going to sing one?
No, absolutely not. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that today is going to be sunny. It'll be up there in the 70s, despite the weather guarantee. We don't have $1,000 to give out right now anyway, so it doesn't matter.
The entire radio industry doesn't have $1,000.
That's right. As for tomorrow, look for another delightful day coming up, and each day is going to get warmer as we get on into the upcoming weekend. Craig Allen, WCBS Weather Center.
One of my best friends in the whole world is on with us right now on the telephone, I understand, from, I guess it's Santa Fe, New Mexico. Is that where you are now, Mikey?
Rio Rancho, down the road from Santa Fe.
This is Michael Conn, who was not on the air at WCBS, but was probably the heart and soul of this radio station, in my opinion, for a good long time in the 1980s and 1990s, who knows where the bodies are buried, and has seen people come and go, including himself, as a matter of fact. Hey, yes. Michael, I got to say, you are one of my best friends in the whole world, and I wanted you to come on and tell the story, because we just mentioned Bill Fein a minute ago, who we worked with, and you have a great story about coming in from Rockland County for your early morning writing shift.
Well, Bill, of course, had the voice of God, and one morning back, I guess it was in the early 90s, something had happened, and WCBS was airing emergency broadcast system activations. There were always tests, but for some reason we started running activations, which of course nobody who grew up in New York had ever heard this. Anyway, it's about 4:45 one morning. I'm in my apartment in White Plains getting ready to walk to the train station. I put on WCBS on my Walkman, and the first thing I hear out of the headphones is Bill Fein announcing, "This is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test," followed by that tone. And I thought for sure this was the end of the world, or the Russians were marching down the thruway, or whatever it was. And it turned out, of course, it was raining on Long Island or something. But it was classic Bill Fein. In fact, in 2007, the Daily News did a little survey of readers about their all-time favorite DJ lineups. And I wrote into David Hinckley, and I submitted, instead of Dan Ingram or Ron Lundy, I said, how about Pat and Ben and Lou and Jim and some of the classics on WCBS. And I was quoted in that article as saying that when the end of the world comes, I want to hear it on WCBS from Bill Fein.
He had that voice of God.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, before you run, the legacy of WCBS, you're a wordsmith. You wrote for the Associated Press, for CBS, CBS Network. Tell us about that. UPI and probably a few other places that still owe you money. Tell us about the legacy of WCBS.
Well, I hope to collect that AP pension one day. The legacy of WCBS. I've heard a lot this morning about the great voices, John Wydra, Harvey Houtman, Bob Glenn, so many people. A lot of people behind the scenes who, of course, are not mentioned. I would just like to quickly mention my late friend Dick Spencer, who was a great influence to me when I worked at 88, taught me how to run a news desk. Beyond that, the legacy is just incredible. The station itself, it's the station where, you talk about the end of the world. Orson Welles broadcast the War of the Worlds on WCBS. It was the station my dad always had on in the car, in the office, in the house. It was where I wanted to work as a kid. You and I, Wayne, we were the kids who listened to Pat and Ben instead of Dan Ingram in the afternoon. This station, the way this station will be missed, cannot be understated.
You mentioned Dick Spencer, the morning producer here at WCBS, who had a wonderful test that he would run in his mind to see if a story was relevant and interesting. And he would talk about this is what Mrs. Spencer wanted to hear. And we decided we were going to discover more lifestyle stories. And it was a slow news morning. And I was sent to cover, I kid you not, they were going to have a bunch of brides in bridal gowns, and they had a huge wedding cake in the middle of Times Square. And the brides were going to jump in, and there was a prize somewhere in the cake. And if they won the prize, they won the prize. But there was going to be this big wrestling match and a cake in the middle of morning drive. So I got there. I do the 6 a.m. I do the 6 a.m. report. It was 7 a.m. Oh, 7 a.m. It's going to happen, this event, at like 9 o'clock or something. So finally it happens. In the meantime, I had discovered that it wasn't just a real cake. It was actually largely Crisco. So this thing now is turning into a greased wrestling match. Wrestling match in the middle of Times Square at 9 o'clock in the morning. They blow the whistle. The brides jump in. My phone rings, and it's Dick Spencer, and he says, Mrs. Spencer wants to know how the greasy wrestling match is going. He had that was his way. That was his way. He was a wonderful morning producer, and I think the Mrs. Spencer test was the thing that really worked, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. There's no question. Dick understood about talking to the audience, not at the audience. He was really very good at that. Excellent.
I'm so glad we mentioned him, because there are so many names that we want to make sure that we mention as WCBS goes away. And Michael, I'm so glad that we mentioned your name, and we want to thank all the writers and the producers and the wonderful the force of the Writers Guild at WCBS, and thank you all for your work.
Well, it was a pleasure. It was a thrill of my life. And boys, can I do one thing before I go?
Sure.
Can I give the legal ID? Because I never did it, and I'll never get the chance again.
Go right ahead.
WCBS, New York.
Well done, Michael. You're hired for the next day and a half. Hey, you mentioned Bob Glenn. Your ID was a whole hell of a lot better than his ID. You ready for this?
13 minutes before 7 o'clock on WCBS News Radio 88, your station for news and information in New York, New Jersey, and Kentucky.
On Michael's story about the Russians coming down the thruway, they would have been easier to take Kentucky. If they'd taken the thruway and got to the Tappan Zee, they would have said, forget it, they can keep it.
Tom O'Hannon, any sign of Russians on the thruway?
Well, let's see. Gosh, I hope not. No?
Sunday, warm, a little bit more humid. Temperatures will be in the mid-80s. And Monday, it's going to be nice as well, but you won't be able to hear it here on WCBS, and we will miss you dearly.
I hope they do the weather. I hope they mention it once in a while. But you know what? It's up to them. It's their station, right? Yeah. It's great to have you. We have such a legendary list of meteorologists, and you and Craig are the brightest stars because you're the names that have come up all the time.
Well, thank you, guys. And I just want to add to what Michael Conn said. The thing that I remember most about coming into this radio station, whether it was in person or on the phone or down the line, no matter who was on the air or who was off the air behind the scenes, it was the same because we were one WCBS family. It was consistent. It was the best. And that's what I'll remember most about WCBS.
Thank you, Todd.
Amen to that.
Hey, you know what I got over here? Speaking of weather people, you want to hear a little Gordon Barnes and Jerry Nachman from 1975?
Sure.
Probably doing what everyone would expect WCBS to do. They're in the middle of a blizzard and they're talking about it.
expect for the rest of today. Cloudy skies, gusty winds out of the northeast, and snow, which will be moderate at times. Total accumulations of 3 to 5 inches. However, there's a pretty good chance in some areas that those amounts will be higher than the 3 to 5, and temperatures will be holding steady and in the 20s. Currently, the airports are reporting moderate snow, and of course, whether or not that's affecting travel, I'll ask Jerry about that in just a moment. But the center of the storm now seems to be right around Norfolk, Virginia, and it's still trying to get organized. So this moderate to heavy snow that we are currently experiencing can be around for another few hours, and then tapering off to a light snow by mid or late afternoon, and then tapering off to flurries later on tonight. Jerry Nachman, have you got any reports from the airports?
Earlier this morning, Gordon, they were saying that they were below visible minimums, and I expect by this time we're starting to have delays on takeoffs and landings as soon as we know that for certain. Here's something. All Eastern Airlines shuttle flights to and from Washington and Boston have been canceled through 1 o'clock. So if you planned on shuttling via Eastern to Washington and Boston and between now and 1 o'clock, you're not going to be able to do it.
Isn't that radio? That's WCBS radio. Something happened instantly, and it was on the air that fast.
No Eastern Airlines, no Pan Am.
Can you imagine? Well, anyway, listen. Jerry Nachman there with Gordon Barnes, WCBS, 1975.
While we're on a weather jag here, I want to bring in just plain Bob Harris in the WCBS Weather Center. You recall the controversy, right? He was on the air, meteorologist Dr. Bob Harris.
He called
Turns out
himself
he wasn't
doctor.
a meteorologist or a doctor. I don't even think his name was Bob, to tell you the truth. But he was phenomenal. He was so good and so smart. I still recall the Daily News headline when he was outed as not having that degree in geophysics at Columbia University. And the Daily News headline said, "Forecasters' lack of degrees raises temperatures." Anyway, here's Bob Harris on WCBS with Jim Donnelly.
It's between 59 and 64, and Friday, hazy sunshine, a bit of Indian summer again. Temperatures in the upper 60s on Friday. Right now, clear, 53 degrees at WCBS.
Okay, time to call the airline so they can put me on hold. Maybe play me a little tune. Hey, what am I going to do with all the time they're saving me? I mean, this is New York. I'm not supposed to have all this time.
You don't. It's 7:07.
Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone?
Amen, Joni, right?
Yeah.
Truer words never spoken. Everything is an exit anthem musically, you know, and that's what we've been going through since we got the news about our station.
I just want to really thank, because it's going to take us both, Paul, and everybody out there in the newsroom, days and days to respond to the literally thousands of emails and even letters, those snail mail letters, and phone calls in the newsroom.
Yeah.
The phone, I'm not joking. Yesterday I was out there because I did the modern-day equivalent of getting the huge cardboard box to get my stuff, and the modern-day equivalent is a flash drive, and I'm taking all these files, and I heard this noise, and it was the phone ringing, and nobody was picking up. I looked behind me, and the entire newsroom was empty because there was a Writers Guild meeting to discuss whatever they have to go through. So I picked up the phone, and it was somebody saying, "I just want to say I've been listening for 35 years, and how much you've meant to me." And then I thanked them and hung up, and then the phone rang again. "I just want to tell you I've been listening for 26 years, how much you've meant to me." And the phone hasn't stopped.
And I've decided my first day, not being at WCBS, I'm going to try and answer all of the messages that I've received just personally, so I have something to do. Tim Sheld, you were famous for returning every single email and every single phone call, every complaint you dealt with, and you dealt with it personally. I thought your head was going to explode in there.
Well, if I can tell an off-color story, Wayne, because you know that I don't do that
Love it. It's
often.
About time. We've waited years for this.
I was so angry at a listener email that I got one year, and I don't even remember what it was about, and I sat and rewrote that email. Sean's looking at me because he knows that I used to do that. I would pick up the phone. The newsroom would say, "There's a listener on the phone," and they knew that I would like to talk to them. And it wasn't a challenge. It was these people cared enough to find our number and call us. I was working on this complaint email response, and then I'm about to hit send, and I looked at the email, and it was gaspasser31 at AOL.com, and I'm thinking...
Wayne's response is priceless.
Wayne's like, "Does that mean there were 30 other gas passers?"
Well, a few of them might have sat in Paul's anchor chair. I've been hearing for years.
You know,
about
Google's right next door, and the guys in the Gmail department right now are saying, listen, we've got to get these guys out of the system.
Can I just say one thing, just because I heard you talking and I wanted to pick up the headphones and say, I don't know if you heard the show that WNYC did yesterday or the day before. Did you hear that?
No.
We've been busy.
WNYC did a half-hour segment on the loss of WCBS, and Jerry Barmash, who is a friend of all of ours in the media and is a talented broadcaster and now an author who has written about TV anchors and has a terrific book out there. Jerry came in the studio and did a half-hour show with Allison Stewart. I apologize if I got her name wrong. They did a half an hour, and they took calls. They took calls from listeners on WNYC, who's a neighbor around the corner, right, about the loss of WCBS in the market, and the heartfelt phone calls that were on that radio station about this radio station really stuck me.
Yeah.
I sat and listened to it. It was a half an hour, and it was what Harvey was saying, that we do what we do. We did what we did without thought who's listening on the other end. And now we're hearing from all the people that were listening on the other end about how important we were for what they did. And that's not a self-important comment. Yeah. We're just hearing people say that you meant so much and your loss is going to mean so much to us.
Well, you understand that what's significant about this is had we just sort of withered on the vine and atrophied and maybe, we'll do news in the morning and then maybe do some talk in the middle of the day and maybe do some sports later and faded away, we would have been like a lot of other once great stations that faded. Instead, it's being removed at a point when it's at its peak, when people still love, revere, remember, need, use the radio station. So there's something missing. There's now a void. And as Joni Mitchell said, you don't know what you got till it's gone, and now we know it's going to be gone, and we feel it.
I worry that future generations are going to look at the little piece of glass in their hand and the text on a screen, that one-dimensional thing, and think that's the news. We did an interview the other day, Wayne, and I said, the news is not a push notification. It's not.
Yes, but a push notification can get you to what you want from the news, and that's really the future.
But you know what? When the rain was coming down the other day,
yes.
I had so many.
Don't disagree.
Because I have them from from my various
Gas
sources.
Passer. You don't know if Gas Passer is sending it. That's the beauty of the brand. Is that when somebody sees something from a WCBS, you can bank on it. When there's a plane down in the Hudson, if it's Joe at Joe33 on Twitter, there's a plane down. You don't know that that's true, but when you see it from WCBS, you're like, oh my God, there's a plane down in the Hudson.
I need the human voice. I need someone telling it to me as well. I understand the importance of the push notification and that, but that does not replace a human voice telling you.
Can I say one other thing? And I don't know if it's been brought up today, and it was something that I saw Roxanne Geyer, or Geyer as we like to call her, who's here. It's just so lovely to see some of these people. But she posted something the other day that made me think about how cutting edge we actually had been at a certain point in time on the digital end, and that it's a shame that that for a zillion reasons it wasn't followed through. But this may have been the first radio station that ever streamed a signal, and it was because Barry Siegfried built a system that allowed, when the push of a button played a commercial on the radio station, that same push of the button simultaneously played a secondary commercial, because there was a rights issue. If you had a commercial on the radio station, you couldn't play it online then because you didn't have the rights to, but Barry invented a way to do it. The other thing that we did is we had a second stream for this radio station. When something was going on, like the Democratic Convention, and you wanted to hear a C-SPAN-like broadcast on the radio, we had a second stream that allowed people to hear that while the radio station didn't have to interrupt what we were doing on a regular basis. We had one of the first Twitter accounts for a news organization, one of the first YouTube accounts. So you got us all certified with the blue check mark, and suddenly my kids and their friends thought I was important. It's just the tribute to the people who worked at the radio station, many of the people out in the newsroom right now, and everybody should walk away on this day feeling super, super proud of the role that they all played in this.
More than just the headlines, WCBS News 88.
We now return to WCBS 880 News. The people, the moments, the events that shaped our lives.
One of the amazing things about this radio station over the years is that we've had everybody on the air from Malcolm X back in the 1960s to every mayor and governor and senator and really anybody who's been making news. And do we have somebody right now, Paul?
I believe we have the mayor of New York City on the line, Mayor Eric Adams. We appreciate your time because, as I've often said, you're busier than we are. And thank you so much. Can you tell us about this radio station and what it means to you and its departure to New York City?
When you think about 57 years, and many of those years was part of my life back in the days when I was with 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Cared, the Guardian Association, State Senator, President, you were always willing to hear what news really impacted our city. And it is really a great loss to us. And I just really want to thank you to allow me throughout my advocacy to have a way to communicate with your listeners and everyday New Yorkers. 880 is really imprinted in my brain because I used to see those microphones at all of the press conferences throughout the years. And to all of you, I wish you the best of luck.
Hey, Mayor Adams, when I started listening to this radio station, Ed Koch was the mayor. Actually, no, I think Abe Beam was the mayor. And then it was Ed Koch and on and on. And since we're all focused on this radio station and our experiences, I want to turn the tables on to you for a second here. And I want to ask you a very basic question. What's it like to be the mayor of New York City?
You have to pinch yourself every day. The weight of the city and your ability to impact the lives of New Yorkers, to make us safer, to bring jobs here, tourism, to make sure our children are prepared for tomorrow. When you think about it, people often ask, hey, isn't this a hard job to do? You're always hearing everyone's concern. And I just think that it's the greatest city on the globe. And if you could help the greatest people on the globe, New Yorkers, you have to just thank God that you're given the opportunity to do so. And I wake up every day with the same level of excitement that I had, believe it or not, when I was sworn in to be a police officer. I love wearing our uniform for 22 years, and I love wearing the role of mayor for the time that I'm the mayor of this great city.
You're on social media. The city agencies are on social media. You're on television constantly. But isn't radio an important part of getting out the word when you're the mayor of New York and you're sitting behind that desk?
Yes, and think about it. Let's think about the images of yesteryears, how families used to sit around the radio and hear Roosevelt either read the comics or listen to our favorite shows. There was something special about radio. And it's still here today. When you are able to hear as you're driving into work or as you are sitting down at your office, radio plays such an important role that, even to host a radio program that I do once a month, people stop me all the time and say, I hear you on radio. Yes, we have social media. Yes, we have Instagram, Facebook, and all that other stuff. But nothing beats hearing the human voice come across the air. A box that we still don't know how we're able to hear that sound, but we enjoy it so much. And you guys did it for 57 years. Kudos to you.
The mayor has a good point. I have no idea how radio works. Never mind television. Wait a minute. We're looking at the air. How are these noises and sounds and images going through the air and not hurting us? I never understood that. Mayor Eric Adams, thank you very much for coming on with us. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. Good luck to you, your next step and your next venture.
Thank you, Mayor Eric Adams. Don't you wish we had a few more days because the mayor went to Chicago to the Democratic National Convention, and the reporters at City Hall were told you can't ask questions about a political issue like that, and they, as one would predict, went absolutely nuts. And we wish we had a few more days to cover the mayor swatting away all the reporters trying to ask him about political questions. It's just I'm going to miss the eruption of the moment from the Blue Room and from what we used to call the Room 9 folks, the reporters that cover City Hall.
What was the word on Ed Koch back in the day? They said that he never had He never had a no comment? No, there was a better line than that.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, but I have been holding the WCBS microphone and have seen politicians bulldoze their way across a crowded room to get to our microphone.
We had Chuck Schumer on the air. I had him on one night. He was then a congressman.
Yeah.
And he was in D.C. because, as I recall, there was a State of the State, or excuse me, State of the Union speech.
Right.
And we wanted the congressman to come on and give his thoughts about it. And as Congressman Schumer was on with me at about 11 o'clock or 11:30 at night, he became distracted, and he was uncharacteristically kind of lost. And I said, and I heard some noise in the background, and I said, Congressman, is everything okay? And he said, well, there's actually a television camera that wants to interview me. And I said, okay, you go. That's fine. Normally, we give the hook. You're giving us the hook. I understand.
Yeah.
And that was the guy's reputation. But to his credit, his staff did call back and apologize. So now, Senator Schumer, we're still waiting for that call back if you want to come on the air with us.
The best part about working for WCBS is the doors that it opened. As a reporter, I would walk in with a WCBS microphone. And during the blizzard of, was it 96, I believe, that blizzard, I took a ride with Rudy Giuliani in the what do they call it, the ice cream truck? Was that what they used to call the four-wheel drive vehicle? And out in the snow, and we went out to like a sanitation garage or something, and he was talking, I came back and I filed my reports from City Hall. Peering behind the curtain and being able to see the way New York City works and to meet the people that pull the levers and to talk as we just did there now with the mayor. That's the best part about this job. It's really been wonderful.
Ever since you said Rudy Giuliani and ice cream truck, all I can think of is Mr. Softy pulling up, and there's Rudy Giuliani serving you a soft serve cone. And, yep, who knows? Who knows? I mean, we all need a second act. I know I do. Traffic time on WCBS. Tom O'Hanlon.
Well, thank you, Wayne. I'm Tom O'Hanlon in the WCBS Traffic Center.
Shall we tell them about the weather? People come to the station for that, you know?
Yeah, sure. I got it right here because it sounds like you're unprepared again. Sunshine this afternoon, mixing with clouds. It's going to be a nice day. It already is beautiful. High. Can I say it? Can I sing it? 77. I won't do that. 77 degrees.
You know, one thing I learned is to keep the weather right in front of you in case you need to fill, and I have it right here in front of me, so I am prepared.
Yeah, then what's your excuse?
I was logging out of making sure I didn't save all my passwords because I won't be needing them anymore.
Oh, they'll be logging you out very shortly, don't worry.
Clear and comfortable, 63 for the city tonight, 50s in the burbs, and tomorrow is described as delightful with sunshine and some clouds and the high around 80.
Saturday and Sunday are going to be warm and sunny days. 83 on Saturday, 85 on Sunday, and then Monday, who cares?
You know, we want to talk about the WCBS reporters and what it's like on the street, carrying the microphone that says the call letters. And people will come up to you on the street and talk about the station. And Sean Adams is here, and I want to talk to Michael Lysak, former WCBS reporter, too, about this. You know what it's like to be out on the, and we've been talking about this on our phone calls the last couple of days, people coming up and telling you about this radio station.
It happens all the time, and I'm sure it happened to you too. They see the mic flag and they love the station so much they can't wait to talk to you, and usually the first question I get, are you Paul Murnane?
Really?
I'd say you add about 6 inches in height, and yes, but and then they have questions. Tell me about this, tell me about that, and most times the people know more about the radio station than I do. They know the history. They know, names and what people do and where people went. And they just love it so much. And I just always found it fascinating. And then there's some people with whom I'm still in contact. I'll get a call. If 4 o'clock in the morning out on a story, I'll get a text. Oh, so you're in the Bronx today, you know. Oh, you're doing this, you're doing that. And they would keep track. And then some of these people become resources because something's going on. You know, oh, I know that person is in that neck of the woods. Let me reach out to them, and then you get information. You network.
Why do you think that is? Is something about the intimacy of radio? People feel like they're in with you in your car and whatever.
Because people are hearing you in their ear. It is it's deeply personal and it's intimate, and they feel like even if they never met you, they feel like they know you. you know. I mean, you're cracking people up here today, Wayne. People love that, and people think of you in that way. And so there is a
wait a minute
personal...
now. Not everybody. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Sean, I'm going to pivot. You gave me a perfect opportunity to play this. This is the guy. I played it earlier today. But this is when we used to have a call-in number. You could leave a voice message about whatever you liked about the radio station, and people never called when they liked something. They only called when they had an issue, and, well, somebody had a big issue with me.
Next message.
This is a former listener in Manhattan. We are so sick of Wayne Cabot. Every other ad, every other... Wayne Cabot. You must have an in with somebody at the top of CBS, but you're losing listeners because we're so goddamn sick of it. Wayne Cabot. Enough already.
End of message.
Well, listen, listen. You're such the mainstay of this radio station. You're the longest tenured anchorman on.
Well, that shook me. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Oh my God, because you want everyone to love you.
Right.
That's why we get into this. You need or want or whatever,
and then to get that message,
and to get the other way. And so it bothered me for a minute, and then I started laughing because it's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
And then I decided to come on the air with Steve Scott and do this.
Make it 40 degrees in Midtown now. Craig Allen says a few snow showers, maybe a coating of an inch or two overnight. His 5-day forecast in 3 minutes.
At 880 on your AM dial and live on your computer at WCBS880.com. When you need to know, we've got you covered.
Good evening, I'm Steve Scott.
And I'm Wayne Cabot.
Wayne Cabot. Enough already.
One man's opinion. Good to have you here. Coming up on WCBS.
I think that's your legacy. What can I do to make this worse?
Yeah, but the thing is, the guy got his wish.
Yeah.
He got his wish. You win.
You're such an icon, though, for this radio station. Are you going to sign us off on Sunday night?
As a matter of fact, I am. So it's not enough already. You're going to have one more dose of me at sometime, I guess, about a quarter before midnight, Sunday into Monday. I can't tell you. I'm probably going to cry just now thinking about it. But I've been entrusted, which is their mistake. I've been entrusted as the guy who's going to sign the radio station off, who's going to wrap it up after 100 years. 100 years.
Right.
Since 1924. And then at midnight, we wrap things up Sunday into Monday, and I'll be the guy giving out the last legal ID, and I'm going to have to record it because I know I can't get through it. But I got a couple of things I want to say, Paul. Mm-hmm. You'll be happy to know that no one's going to hear it because it's going to be in the middle of the night. So you won't have to hear it. But I got
a text from Wayne. He has something to say.
I got something to say, and I'm going to say it.
I'll be seeing those next week.
Speaking of something to say, Paul.
Yeah.
I got a note here from a guy named Nat Rosen.
Right.
Who said, and I'm quoting here, I often wondered how you even got away with some of the things you said, but each time that you'd show up on the air the next day. So I guess the bosses, quote, and sponsors could find it in their hearts to forgive you when you said things. And then he gives me specifics. After a commercial for the bacon-wrapped double bacon burger, you said, McDonald's is just giving out heart attacks. Following a story about recreational marijuana, you said, I held that hit in for the entire length of the story. And I also said, doing a little history thing, on this date in 1902, Levi Strauss died. He had no children, leaving no one to pass his genes to.
And I've learned
That's
over
a
the
dad
years.
joke.
I've learned over the years if somebody said there was something outrageous I heard on the radio, I said, that was Cabot. I would say that's the way anyone working with Wayne should learn that phrase first.
Yeah, and you know what else people loved? The music, because we all connect on music.
Yeah.
I mean, Bridget, you had Jimmy Fink on yesterday. Can you Bridget, get on the mic for a second here, because
one of our radio heroes was on with Bridget Quinn.
We always wanted to be rock and roll disc jockeys, never quite made it to FM, except for a joke. The rest of us have been on AM radio, and you had a chance to talk to our hero from WPLJ and now the Peak, Jimmy Fink, and we love Jimmy.
We love Jimmy, and he said that they kind of gave him the keys to the radio station and said, do freeform radio. And I said, Jimmy, you're the one. Like, whoever hears that anymore in radio. But something you always did so well was incorporating music into those 88, quote-unquote 88 seconds of sound. I mean, those are masterpieces, Wayne. And, you know, Yeah, what can I say? And you two, you've been playing the clips of the great anchor teams. You're the great anchor team. Listening to you driving in, the hour and a half drive would go by like that. Never knew what you were going to say. Always knew I'd get the news I needed to know to prep. But the way you just back and forth, it's seamless. And you hit all your time marks, too. I mean, today not, maybe, but that's fine.
Today was the miracle. Yes.
Yeah, today didn't matter. But really, you guys are among the great teams here.
Thank you,
Bridget. We learned this listening to you and Jim and you and Jeff. We've listened, that we learned listening from you guys and all of our radio predecessors in this chair, right?
You are fantastic.
We got to co-anchor together a few times when Jerry Garcia died.
Yes, and do you remember the time we killed off Eddie Vedder by mistake?
Yeah. I shouldn't laugh.
We were trying to be. We thought we were so young and so hip and knowledgeable about music, and that was when grunge was just hitting it, or at least we were just paying attention to it. And the one cryptic line came across the AP, and it said, "The lead singer of Nirvana is dead."
Right.
And I turned to you. I said, This is off the air. I said, is that Eddie Vedder? And you said, maybe, I think so.
Probably, yeah.
So
that
I
sounds good.
Confidently declared that Eddie Vedder was dead. He was not, still is not. And by the way,
we didn't have Google then in our defense.
We didn't have Google, but what amazed me was the phones lit up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Our listeners knew. Our listeners knew, and our listeners always knew.
Oh, they always know more than we do, you know. And one of the things that it was very nice to hear is that you and I wouldn't varnish over what was the term, the rare mistakes someone said, and we would talk about. Oh, sorry, what is this? Somebody said they remember saying frequently, "What does this button do?" And that's what it's like in here.
Well, Chris Quimby, who just walked in here. Chris, can you come on the mic? And Rob, we got to get you too.
Yeah.
Speaking of mistakes, no, I don't know. Hold on, I didn't say that right. If we made a mistake, I remember Chris Quimby. You were our manager a few years back, and wow, it's so good to see you, and you haven't aged a day somehow.
Oh, my gosh, thank you.
But you know that you encouraged us to go with those random moments. You said that the mistakes make you sound human, just don't do them too often.
I've always felt on that point for a news anchor is you can make a mistake, it's how you recover from it that matters. Now, but once again, you make them too often, not a good thing.
You were so supportive. All you guys have been so supportive, and women too. In fact, you were the only woman to be. You were. How many women ran news stations in the United States of America?
Wow, not many. There were some before me. There were some before me. Carol Brashear's out in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I was a news director. I don't know if she was a program director.
I'm sure some since.
Yeah, there weren't that many, but I just never thought of that.
Well, we never thought of it that way either, because you immediately took command and had respect, and it wasn't a matter of, they need to hire a woman or any kind of, you hear the talk today, the chatter going on, and it's repulsive in my opinion, but that was never a thought. You were always accepted.
Well, at WCBS 880, I've had a very long career, and I just take this moment to say this was the pinnacle of my career. I was only here for 5 years. The best 5 years of my life, and I love each and every one of you people.
Oh,
Chris, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for the memories.
Then there's Rob Sanchez. Then there's Paul, you used the word earlier, reprobate? Yeah. Well, here's the reprobate Rob Sanchez.
Is the profanity delay ramped up?
I got the dump button right over
okay,
here.
Good. Okay.
You were so much fun to work with and work for, Rob, because you were real, and I don't think you're from New York, but you might as well be from New York.
Yeah, I spent about 15 years here.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got New York in your blood because you got that acerbic attitude that a newsroom needs, and we loved it.
Well, thank you. I don't know what to say, so I'm going to shut up for once in my life.
Wow.
We are getting to that time. I mean, this is winding down, and it's we have a lump in our throat. But you know what we feel, and this is true. We feel such gratitude to have been a part of this place, and such respect for its tradition and for the listeners, and to ask someone to spend time with a radio station or is to be a reporter and say, "Can I talk to you about a story?" I mean, that's remarkable that people would give their time in 2024. And I think that feeds into the feeling of gratitude, which is the overwhelming emotion that I have sitting here right now, I have to say.
Gratitude. Absolutely. It is such a privilege and a pleasure, and literally a pleasure. I mean, can I be honest with you? When that alarm goes off at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, it's not fun. It's never fun. Driving in here this morning when I had a nail through my tire and had to put air in my tire at 2 in the morning, that's not fun.
I had a
when
car
we
go
get
by
in
me.
here, it's great.
I had a car go by me on the West Side Highway going about 100 miles an hour, almost clipped my bumper, and I thought, well, I won't have to put up with that anymore, unless some lucrative radio gig comes through. I'm just saying.
All right. Wow. Okay. I know we're getting near the end here. Although, we're going to repeat this, and we've got some special programming that Dave Plotkin at WINS has put together because he's like a lot of people at WINS, they love WCBS.
So you're abandoning your plan to lock the studio door and keep going.
That's still a possibility, Paul, although that was only going to be if Bridget brought in that bottle, which she didn't. So it's kind of dry in here.
Foiled again.
Yeah. But Dave Plotkin put together a 2-hour retrospective of CBS going back to when we signed on in 1924.
We have audio, at least one audio clip from the 1920s in this wonderfully assembled WCBS, the station that became WCBS retrospective. Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, I understand, is the first airing for that. And I came in at 3:40 this morning, and Dave was still here. We recorded the tracks for that yesterday, and he came down at 3:40 in the morning. He said, "It's all done." I said, "Have you been here since yesterday?" He said, "Yes," which shows you the dedication that people in this business have, and to this radio station in particular.
Can we give a shout out now to some of the people behind the scenes right now who have been through this very traumatic experience in the last week of learning that their jobs were going away?
Yeah.
Some people like us have been at this for a while, and it's a softer landing because we were nearing retirement, and through our union SAG-AFTRA, we're going to be okay because of the very strong contract that they had. Its legacy.
Okay, in one sense. I don't know.
Well, right. Financially, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Not set, but okay.
We've never not had jobs in 40-year radio careers. This is our first experience no, you had that unpleasant Philadelphia experience, but that didn't last long.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm very aware that while we're having a party in here, it's tough for a lot of people out there. In the newsroom. Some of the younger people are so bright, they're going to be fine. And I mean that. They always hear that. You're going to be fine. No, really, you're going to be fine. You're bright. And some of the mid-career people that are going to have to go out there and hump for a new job now in a very difficult market.
If you see WCBS on a resume and you're in a news organization, it is the best investment you can make to bring in, because the people who are here are the best.
So listen up right now as we tell you who is working behind the scenes right now at WCBS 880.
This is tough because it's usually the last thing we do before we wrap up our shift. It's usually like, we're heading out the door. And literally in the certain way we are, aren't we, Wayne?
And here are the desk assistants who are working right now.
Sabrina Salovitz.
Jamila Jello.
Eve Risotto.
Ashley Reed.
Michael Hardell.
Anthony Bosco.
Isanya Gonzalez.
Alma Bouvet.
Jake Angelo.
Maggie Leon.
Carla Marilis.
And we have the people that book the interviews you hear. We call them the bookers, and they work magic.
Oliver Sampson.
Heather Ron.
We could only afford 2 of them.
And here are our writers.
Tanya Hansen.
Chris Rausch. Martin Untroib.
And our production director,
Tom Fenn.
Bill Tynan, our creative services director. We have that one.
Bill Tynan.
He made sure he said his name. And our producers.
Lauren Kala-Rausch.
Rivka Oppenheim.
Lou Zambrana.
Lisa T. Cherkovich.
You recognize that theme playing behind us.
Yeah, this is one of the favorite things that we do. We play things off air during Morning Drive, and the Steve Carman News Is package is always one of our favorites. Will you call me next week and just play it down the phone line at me for old time's sake?
Listen, you can call Steve Carman. He's still a friend of ours. He has been for a while there, he would call us and yell at us for playing this stuff because he wanted his money. But then we won him over, Paul, and he said, you know what, play it. Now, but Steve Carman did all the jingles that were so popular in the 70s from, well, I Love New York to when you say Budweiser, you said it all. Nationwide is on your side. And this one, too. Wow.
Yeah, just so amazing. I think of one sound with this radio station, and this may have been what made it to me sound so important. You sat up, you paid attention, because when you heard that, you knew this is the news, this is something you need to know, and that was such a defining sound, and I'm so glad it's playing in my headphones now, and I had a chance in my years here to talk over that wonderful production.
Paul Murnane has been an experience working with you.
Thank you. How kind.
A wonderful experience working with you.
I feel the same.
And lose my address.
I am blocking you now on social media and blocking you on my cell phone. I think that speaks to the fun we have had. It's kind of a bro culture that goes on in these studios, and the last couple of years that I have had in this business, as I said earlier, as the resources, frankly, have been shrinking, as it has been kind of seemingly harder to do what we do, I felt more comfortable. I have felt more confident. And also that is not just because of the reality of the business, Wayne. It's because I've had a chance to work with you in this anchor chair now for 8 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And can we just get a little out there from all the people who are assembled and holding up their phones?
Yeah.
A little round of applause for all of us.
Doesn't that tell you? Doesn't that sound tell you about the community of WCBS? These are all current and former employees in the room. It's wonderful.
Nat Rosen said, "We'll miss the news and objective insights. We'll miss your dulcet tones and acerbic wit." He's talking to both of us, Paul. Relax. Miss your...
I was going to say, where's my credit?
Miss your familiar and friendly voice, softening the often harsh news of the day. Most of all, I'll miss my daily dose of Wayne and Murnane in the morning. Hey, why didn't we think of calling ourselves Wayne and Murnane in the morning?
I think the marketing people are in for another day or so. We should send a memo.
Now, Nat says he will listen to our Odyssey cousins at 1010 Wins, but it just won't be the same, he says. Thanks for all that you did. All the best to you, and glad you got a bunch of paid time off before the axe fell. Well, that's true. Yeah.
What can we say here at the end, but thank you so much. Thank you, WCBS, current and past employees. Thank you for Odyssey for having the trust in us to say goodbye as we have been.
And one last time, we're going to let this play in the clear as we say, see you next time.
When you need to know why, when it matters most. This is WCBS 880 News.
Okay, everybody, on three, we're going to give the legal ID. 1, 2, 3.
WCBS New York.
I love it. I love it that we're doing different versions of it. Fantastic.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Steve Kathan. Political history will unfold tonight when Vice President Kamala Harris accepts the Democratic presidential nomination.